Surge taking him, both teammates gone. He needs to basically get an elimination here with all odds against him.
Way too many factors against him. 210 below the damage threshold as a solo. Doesn't even have any shield potions, but he makes it work anyway. Mustache, big elimination onto Teeny, and that's the lifeline he needed. Now has an opportunity to find even more Surge. He's still sitting just below, but talk about a clutch up. Mustache just fully online, or as much as he can be. Vico, Flixie, Veno have just creeped their way up onto this high ground, though, Takata, and they're looking to possibly even make a connection towards the island if the zone permits.
This is interesting. I'm wondering, were they always on height on top of Thomas, or did they end up taking it? But either way, they're in prime position here. We'll see where it pulls, and it pulls, I mean, potentially around the island. They can conserve a lot of mats if they choose so. But Mustache, on the other hand, he's going to pop that chug. He's going to do what he can to tank a bit of Storm Surge, but he should find some options here on the rotate to do damage.
Oh, he's just going to play spoiler for Marius's team instead, catching him out, edits him down. And the floor just melting away from Marius. Nowhere left to run, but Mustache has done the impossible, it seems like. Now sitting only 4 above. He's still got quite a ways to go, and he's got to deal with the huge threat building in the low ground. All of this congestion, but Venya, Pixie, as a duo, it's going to be all that much more difficult to actually control the front side of low. They're trying to keep tabs on some of the buildup taking place behind them, but they want to move forward, and Akira could pay the price here. Pink, Nebs also in a duo position. Takata, everybody just losing their teammates along the way.
A lot of duos this time around. I do see 2 trios, though. Savage being one of them, as they got to be careful. The whole trio has been cracked. Luckily enough, not a single one has been knocked yet. Demus right beside them, knocking on their door. Full trio as well. As now the focus is, where's this zone gonna pull? Unfortunately for Vico Venoflixi, not back to the island. It's going to pump power. As now these players have to rotate far. Going around the edge of the zone here can be crucial.
Thomas, though, content their current low ground position. They've got a little bit of frontside control. They're just trying to stay ahead, but they need a refresh. They're running so low on material. They can see all the commotion, and they've also got a fresh trio directly above them. Seti, Hari, Cammy. That could be a real threat. Thomas' team isn't careful, and Vanya, he's just trying to stay up. Yasin gonna be the victim here. You're not trapped. Vanya still making sure that he can actually break through here. And despite all odds, the double chug will build him a couple more placements potentially, because the lobby is just clearing out so fast.
How is he still up? Vanya shouldn't be up right now, but he's continuing to go on in zone. Almost out of material. 6 builds left. It's all on wood. The Chug Jug is going to be popped. Recuperate a bit more of that. Take the med mist from the opponents while he chugs, but he gets taken down. Vico Venoflixi continuing to maintain height. Not only did they take down the #1 trio going into this match, they want to close it out as well. Chino left alone. Back a zone, only 33 HP. Seconds away from getting eliminated as he gets stuck and taken down.
And Vico, Flixie, Veno, they're just continuing to maintain overhead. They might not have any more healing resources left on Vico, but it won't matter. All the heavy lifting is being done underneath them. They are just spraying these lower tiers. Tayson, Atrish, Chicho, they might have something to say, though. This team is looking incredibly healthy despite being on the low ground. The zone is potentially pulling in their favor, and they've got a firm grasp of this front side. They've cut everybody else off, and they are just looking back, preventing teams from breaking through. Akira's gonna be forced to play the defensive walls here. Atris just tarping forward, trying to keep tabs on what's taking place above them, though. They gotta be really careful here. They got Kurama on their side point, and they're just gonna jump right in, but Atris gets the exchange. Tayson will fall, but Vico, Flixie, Veno, they're the ones who seem to be commandeering height still.
Oh, they're getting fraggy with it now. They only had 8 eliminations a second ago. We look back again, they're in double digits. It's perfect for them having 2 trios on low. They battled out. It turned into 2 duos now with the advantage. Vico drops down. Bam, slam right onto his opponent. Hibris gets knocked. Chicho falls right after. And they close out the match with I don't even know how many eliminations, Taco.
Yeah, swing and a miss initially there for Vico, but he still found the Grand Slam with the Victory Royale here in Game 7. And this is exactly what they have to do, Takata. It's one thing to eliminate Ping Walks and Malabuka off spawn. It's another to then convert that into a winning position. And by doing so, they are cutting the gap significantly for that leaderboard.
This is exactly what we want to see from a top team in the EU FNCS Major Finals. They take out the competition in first place. They win the first match of day 2. What an incredible way to start it off, but we have to see how that's shaking up the leaderboard. Frankie Levin Mini, you got to take it away.
I mean, I can't think of a better way to start day 2 of the Major 2 finals, boys, because that was incredible from Vico, Veno, and Flixie. They had our jaw on the floor in the first zone, and then they wrapped things up so beautifully in the endgame, Levin.
I mean, what a statement. The ultimate statement you can make here to start day 2 of the major finals. If you were gonna land on the first place team and say, we want that smoke, we want it all day long, you better come and win that game. That's what you better do. What? I mean, honestly speaking, Mini, I wasn't expecting this, right? I wasn't expecting them to land directly on Malabuka at all. And then for them to actually go out and really just put them through it. Like, Malabuka's team looks stressed in that off spawn.
Well, the thing is, Vico and Flixie have had a history of landing here this season. They've landed here in a couple of events. So although I'm very, very shocked, we almost shouldn't be in a way because they have had experience of this drop spot. It's not like they've never landed here before. But the way that they rolled through Malabuka's team, who have been landing here in pretty much every single tournament this season, it looked like they were the team that were landing on the on their new drop spot. So, I mean, the way that they did this is unreal. And I like the way that they went about the final elimination as well, just using that scanner to find out ping right there. And just, that set them up perfectly. The way they played this end game as well, playing for that island up on height, it was just absolute perfection. And it wasn't like the overall game went perfectly for them. They still had to do a little bit of work in mid game, but wow, that was amazing.
I mean, I feel like I'm watching the Veno Vico Flixie that we all thought was gonna just dominate Major 1, right? You know, the weeks leading into Major 1 finals when they felt unbeatable, unstoppable, those are the vibes they gave me in this game, the way they cleared things out. We know what Veno and Flixie can do, but Vico in this game to close things out was just magnificent. The best fragger in EU is the title he's held for quite a while now, and there's been some different people sort of trying to take him on, right? Different people coming into the fray saying, hey, look, I might be the best fragger, it might not be you, Vico. He's trying to shut up all those people today. I mean, the closing moments, just to have that confidence, hitting the shots needed. I mean, this team is something else. Again, I said yesterday, if they can pull off what they're trying to pull off this weekend, it's going to be one of the greatest performances we've seen in an EU major final. The way this is going is a different turn I weren't expecting, but it's
It is Championship Sunday of FNCS Europe Major 2, and we've started with an absolute barnstormer. And in fact, we should really take a look at the leaderboard first of all before we discuss what happened in Game 7, because there were huge implications. Vico, Veno, and Flixie wiped our leaderboard toppers, Wox, Malabuka, and Ping at Lone Wolf Lair to start off the game, and then they went and took the victory royale, which means there's just 17 points separating these teams now. There's two questions. The first one being for you, Mini Miner. What does this mean for Mali's team? Do you think that they're going to have a bit of a mental block? They're going to have the shadow of Veno on their backs going forward?
Yeah, I mean, they have to, right? That has to give them a bit of a wobble. They've now just sat in lobby for 25 minutes, having to think through what they need to do next. That's definitely thrown a spanner in the works to them. The big question is now what's going to happen next game, I think, as well. You know, are Vico, Ven, and Flixie actually going to go ahead and do that? Are they going to play those mind games? I don't know. I don't know what I would do in this situation, but they seem to have it on lock.
This is the beauty of Fortnite, right? Because after yesterday, everyone was going 100-point gap after day one. It's crazy, right? And just like that, it's all changed, right? Yeah. 17 points, nothing now going on for the next 5 games. So close. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, do you just keep going there because it works so well in that game? I feel like we just can't predict what Veno, Vico, Flixie will do because they've just been so unpredictable all weekend long, including that game. Whatever they do, I know they've cooked up something. That's the reality of it. We can trust that whatever they choose to do will be effective.
Well, we've got 5 more courses to taste as the day continues, but let's talk about Banyak, Pixie, and Marius. Vanya in particular was making hero plays to try and clutch them inside the top 10. I think he managed 12 in that last game, but it's still a blistering start for these guys, Levin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at these guys, and again, they were a team that I feel like just goes under the radar. It's just a very, very good team here in EU. I remember back in the day when Vanya used to play and compete in EU in duos, you know, he was always a top talented player. And we were always like, if he could get some tier 1 teammates with him, he's going to shine. And obviously he played with Swizzy, finally picked up an FNCS win. And in this team, he's got Marius and Pixie with him. Marius, very unfortunate there to get taken down by Mustache. But, you know, when you have Marius and Pixie alongside, you know, a player like Vanya, you know, they're always destined for great things. How he survived here, Mini, was mental. I thought he was 100% going down, and he just managed to just stay alive, clutch out some extra placement points.
Yeah, we spoke about it a lot last major as well with Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache about how these important solo clutches can have a big impact because these guys now need to keep up with the top end of the leaderboard if they want any chance of winning this FNCS. So those sort of performances are so important, especially now if Vico, Ven, and Flixie are going to be landing in different places. Maybe they're going to continue landing on Malabuka. That could swing either way, so they need to keep in that top 3.
Tayson, Chris, and Chicho, we didn't get to see much of a big performance from them yesterday. However, their fortunes did start to improve over the first 6 games. And now I feel like we've seen the best from them yet after they switched their drop spot to Kappa Kappa, Mini Miner.
Yeah, well, they switched their drop spot midway through yesterday. They found a lot of success now there at Kappa Kappa. I think they were uncontested in that game as well, Levin. So a lot, it seems to be going their way right now. And this is the sort of performance that we expect to see from a team like Tayson, Chicho, and Haris. We know how good Chicho and Haris are. We know how good Tayson can be in these high-pressure situations. We just didn't get to see it for half of yesterday. And now they're sneakily coming up into that top 8. Could they be a Globals qualification? We'll have to see.
If they keep this up, absolutely. Their form since switching to Kappa has been so strong. It sometimes feels wrong, like talking about competitive Fortnite EU, like the top level of it, not mentioning Tayson. So I'm glad to see their team picking up a bit of form, and maybe they will push their way in and call for Globals.
This is what we want to see, guys. A hotly contested day 2. So let's head to game 8 now with Taco and Takata.
Thank you, Frankie. Look, to set the stage, there was a 142-point difference from Veno's trio and Malabuka's trio going into game 1 today. Now there's just a 17-point difference after 1 match. The issue is, Taco, if they keep contesting each other, it might go back and forth.
It could go back and forth, but if we play back the flashbacks from the DIP finals in week 5, that's something that I think Veno is more than willing to stake and wait and like try to, you know, take his chances with in comparison to Malabuka's team. But they had that entire match to sit out, right? So surely they're thinking about if they get contested again off spawn, how are we going to actually tackle that fight?
Yeah, I mean, this might be a minor factor too, but if you get elimed off spawn, you got like 23 minutes, what, maybe you're in creative doing 1v1 something. Vico Veno Flixi just got like a 15 elim win. I mean, that's gonna boost up your confidence, boost up your energy, and I didn't see Vico missing any shots, so I mean, they're gonna be going in on fire for this off-spawn engagement. Once again, if that's what they decide to do, right? We saw them switch things up, but to be honest, I think it's what's gonna happen. We don't have to wait long. The 8th game is ready to go.
It's just gotta be one of those stomach drop sensations, though, if you are Malabuka, Ping, and Walks, because everybody is such a fierce competitor, right? But when you are just watching the team that wiped you, knowing that this is probably the only team in this lobby that can truly threaten your current claim for that first place position on the leaderboard, and then you see them win, not just clear you out of your spot, but win the game. It is such a huge statement from Veno's team, and we're gonna have a repeat circumstance here at Takata. Veno, Flixi, Vico, they are here again at Lone Wolf. They are not
ground position here at Lone Wolf. They have that positional advantage. Will they be able to take this fight fast enough? Will they get enough shields? There's so many factors to these early game engagements, but ultimately, if you put in the work, if you put in the prep, if you hit your shots, it looks like both trios right now are going to be quite even on shield. It's all up to who can make the better play.
Oh no. Oh no, that was almost disastrous for Vika, but Malabuka just gonna get the shots off in time. So Vika's going to survive. Malabuka now dropping. Wanted to challenge some of these lower floors. Walks, but it's Ping knocked yet again. Malabuka's team taking the first casualty here. And Walks, Malabuka, they've got to go on a recovery tour now. Vico, total control of the high ground. Even if Malabuka and Walks try to escape the mansion, they're gonna have to deal with Vico. But Flixi, him having been eliminated now means that this is a clean 2 versus 2. Walks trying to deal with Vico and Veno at the same time. Probably way too much pressure. So he'll try to create a little bit of space. Vico and Veno still hunting though. But Walks, he just wants to play the quiet game.
I wonder if any of the trios kind of, you know, north of Lone Wolf or in the surrounding areas are going to think, is this a good time to, you know, like maybe third party these trios? Is it a option? How long are these fights going to take? It's all about looking at the elimination feed, seeing how it plays out. But if you looked right now, you know that both teams have lost a player. And right now, it looks like Vico Veno actually don't have the superior position. They're going to farm match. They're doing what they can, but might even potentially try and bring back Flixi. Even if they do so, will they get beamed out the sky? It's kind of forcing them to drop down and be on even ground here, as they're trying to do whatever possible to stop this, but I think they're gonna get it.
Veno's holding. They don't have the materials to jump in and challenge it. Even with Flixi getting knocked, he's fully covered. That's why Vico was tarping out in the first place. He tunneled out a safety net for when Flixi landed. Obviously, they want to go for the double revive, but Malabuka Walks. They can't afford to waste any more time. They're trying to close in. It's still a 2 versus 2 scenario. Veno nearly getting the better end of Malabuka there, but Vico down to his final build. Vico's just going for the immediate battle, and he wins it out. Walks cannot stop him. Malabuka also about to join his teammate. Another clear wipe. Veno and Flixi are just waiting. Flixi watching his teammates essentially clutch this one up. Malabuka, though, finally shutting down Vico. I would not believe it had we not just seen it, Takata, but Vico doesn't actually win. I thought this was all said and done. Veno now has to ensure that he takes out Malabuka. They need to play for the reboots. And Malabuka, he doesn't have an opportunity just yet to use these shield potions. But he's trying to dodge around, even taking the launch pad. He's got a little bit of help indirectly, and Veno could fall here, but he's still chasing Malabuka. These guys refusing to budge. but they spent entirely too long. It is catastrophe now for both of our leading teams.
No. Not even a single trio comes out winning in this situation. The fight took too long. The players in the surrounding area, like I was mentioning, they saw on the Elim feed that these teams were going back and forth. It wasn't a quick wipe. It's the perfect third-party opportunity. And it wasn't just one trio. It was two different trios that realized this. What a tragic fall for both Veno and Malabuka's trio. Scroll, eye drop, and Sky now gonna try and fight the other third-partying trio. Grippe trying to do what he can to stay up, but Scroll going right into the box. He's got that gold rush effect, phasing his way in, but no knocks connecting yet. As the longer these trios take, the more risky the situation is gonna get.
This might have just bailed out Malabuka entirely, though. Didn't actually see him getting cleaned up in the same fashion as Veno there towards the end, so he might have even scurried off elsewhere. Might be able to play for a reboot later on. Definitely worst case scenario for Veno, but high risk, high reward is definitely seeming to be the name of the game as far as those two teams are concerned. Eye drop, Scroll, and Sky, though, they need to just establish surge the same way that they've been doing. They loved fighting all throughout yesterday. That was how they primarily established their surge, and seems to maintain their intention here.
There's a few things to think about. One, Malabuka's still up, so there's potential for a reboot later on. The other is that first and second place, so Malabuka and Veno, are, you know, only a difference of 17 points, but second and third is a difference of 64 points. So if Malabuka goes down here, that's a huge opportunity from second or third, sorry, to seventh, eighth, even just the top 10 in general, to close that gap between first and second. And these are two trios that can make it happen.
Close call there for Glubshy. Nearly found himself eating a tag that was going to be a big problem. Fortunately, it didn't go through. I like this, though, from Sky. Just maintaining the high ground position. Also making sure to look out, see whether or not teams are trying to join the mix-up that's taking place here at Lone Wolf. But Sky, Scroll, eye drop, they might have gotten the damage that they were after. Whether or not they continue to re-engage is a separate conversation, but Malabuka is still lingering the bottom end of Lone Wolf Lair, and it's probably going to be very difficult for him to actually work his way out of this POI, since he knows that there is a team controlling the high ground. You just get so much view from where Sky and Scroll were last seen that Malabuka doesn't have any other options but to just hide. Hope that these teams are able to clear out, and then they can try to make a play.
Yeah, it's a matter of time here. You know, do they wait for the Lone Wolf to go in zone, go there, even go into zone to find something? While that plays out, though, we'll look over at Fredoxy, Chino, and Pablo. Double chugs, hopeful height battle. Dexy, Artist, and Huddy. This is the trio that I believe originally was going to contest Tayson today. But it looks like they're up against Fred, and it's not quite going their way as Artist gets knocked. Now a 3v2.
Some of these teams just getting so disoriented in the mix-ups. But Pablo finds a clean shot onto Dexy. Just another elimination. So many elims, even for Fredoxy's team, already at 6. They are clearly trying to avoid having to deal with any sort of surge woes later on. Surely this is enough damage to carry them through their mid-game rotates.
Surely, right?
Surely.
Seeing what Malabuka decided to do, it seems like, yeah, Lone Wolf still has two trios there. So, like, you know what? I'm out of here. I'll find another reboot.
Oh, no.
But, I mean, there are some trios close by. I'm wondering if he even has all the cards, if he's going to go for the gold route. A lot of options, but the issue is, you know, in this meta, the odds of having trios inside of the Storm is significantly higher. I mean, even comparing it to last season, there was a 68% increase with the amount of time spent in the Storm. So you really do have to be careful when you're rotating through here. You're never safe, but we'll see if Malabuka can make something happen.
Definitely not going to be an easy endeavor. A couple other teams, though. Kyoto just stuck. Nowhere left to run. Misha's team finding that elimination leads me to believe that something has gone horribly wrong for Pink and Nebs, considering that they weren't with him. Sure enough, leaderboard top right going to reveal it. Pink, Nebs, Kiro are currently 5th place team, having been freshly eliminated. Now means that other teams can try to leapfrog their way into that position instead. Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache, though, they're just focused on their own methods of success.
Good news is they still have Seaport on con. You know, they don't have a Vico Veno Flixie camp in their vault this time around, so a little less pressure in that sense. Can play more what they have been used to playing throughout the season. And hey, looks like Malabuka got, you know, step 1 of 5 complete, right? He brought his teammates back into the match, but now not only do they have to recuperate their shield, their mats, their loot, they're probably gonna have to get a bit of damage. Malabuka already had those eliminations, but even so, having to rotate from Outlaw. You know, the job's not finished.
They're definitely going to have to spend some time looking to build back up from their starting point. And yeah, it's always going to be difficult, but when you play for the reboot, you're also letting everybody else in the area know, including teams that may be struggling for Surge along the way. And Malabuka just trying to get out as quickly as possible. Walks looking for whatever whites he can find. They are just so split currently.
What I don't like here is if the opposing trio chooses to take that geyser and find, you know, one of the players caught off guard. If they see Walks in the shoreline, all 3 of them land on him. You know, there's quite a risk there, but saw a little bit of what happened to Demon's Dojo. Vanya Maris and Pixie, this could be a big game for them. They're the closest to 2nd place, sitting in 3rd. So Vico's already gone. If Malabuka doesn't make out of zone here, this is the trio that has a big opportunity to make it in. Actually, with the current points, including, you know, this match, 4th place alongside Pablo, Ferdoxy, and Shino there. So they're both really close.
They're not looking to have a repeat of what went down, though, in Major 1. They want to be the ones in control of the leaderboard, Takata. It's definitely about the Global's position, but winning and becoming the Blade of Champions holder yourself is an entirely separate feeling, and that's one that this team is certainly chasing after with all their might.
Looks like Akira, Merix, and Kararma are going to be at the opposing end here. Just kind of taking shots back and forth. I don't think we'll see a fight come out from this. Okay, I only see Malabuka, which is slightly concerning, but his teammates are up. It's just Twice Trio's making it quite difficult for them to get back in. But, you know, on the other hand, it's given them a bit of damage, which they do need. So to be fair, it's not the worst thing that could happen. This is just not looking good, though. To be honest, like...
You're at Canyon's Crossing, and the zone is pulling towards the northern side, where the elevation is at. Even if they make it in, they still have to deal with all the struggles that are involved with scaling up elevation, dealing with their material counts. Veno's strategy has just set them so far back that even the initial survival, if you want to consider that a win, isn't actually proving to be all that much in their favor, because they are just about to hit the range of placement points, and there's not that many, and they're going to need way more. You want to look at consistent top 5 placements.
Yeah, I mean, I'll basically call that a draw, right? We had 1-0 for Vico Veno Flixie, and now a 1 for the draw. They both kind of didn't win in this situation. Now, hey, if Malabuka's able to come back, get a decently, you know, solid game, even just make it to end game, that actually won't be too bad at all. At least they can continue to kind of increase that gap, but we'll see. For the trios inside a zone, Kami said Haru didn't have that challenge in the early game. They're positioned up quite well to kind of pick off these teams rotating on in. We'll see where this next zone does end up pulling, but I mean, so far pretty chill.
They can take a few extra ticks of storm if needed. We're also hanging around that edge line of Seaport, so teams that are having to deal with maybe rotating over the water with Seti and Cammy's position. They've got that leverage of holding down the bridge. Thomas on the island with that mythic drum gun. That's
harder than
end
it
up
looks.
eating a tag.
Those tags, when they're
Not if you're
running around
Thomas.
building that far away in a major finals lobby with the amount of players that are up, you know, those aren't easy shots, but I mean, it's Thomas HD. Malabuka walks, though. This is what they need. They need to find a surprise. They need to find a refresh. Malabuka hits the initial shot. Duts get a knock. He doesn't even go down. This could be it, Taco.
This could be huge for Malabuka, but first, they've got to close it out for next team, though. Completely sabotage from where we're currently looking. And Dinas will be fully wiped. Just camping the launch pad. A bit diabolical by Malabuka, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and you have to respect the strategy here. They had to do something to come up with a little bit of a win after what took place in the early.
You said diabolical. That's the perfect play. I mean, if you're thinking of odds of where trios are going to end up, a launch pad in a location like this for common rotations is the perfect spot. And not only did not a single player get knocked, they were able to get multiple finishes. I mean, this is exactly what we wanted to see from Malabuka's trio. They are somehow managing to slowly but surely turn this game around. I drop Sky and Scroll, on the other hand, still below.
Just trying to make sure that Fnaim, Moneymaker, Faded don't actually try to focus in on where they're currently seated. A little bit lower down. They're gonna work their way into this next edge of zone, though. Costing them a lot of mats, though. They're probably hoping for better tags, but Hydra from out of nowhere, completely out of left field even, just gets knocked. Zara, Zangi, and Peterbor have closed into their current position. Double revive will be enough to get Hydra back into the action, but they're still 5 below. Time is ticking, and the clock is working against them. Scroll trying to make up for the lost minutes. They want a little bit more damage, but they've got to spend time instead healing. And Sky gonna pay the ultimate price here. He wanted to see if he could get that little bit of extra surge for his teammates, but instead, a 1 versus 3, just too aggressive. And he'll be punished for it. Zara and Zangi, likely another team that was also incredibly low on their surge, but now Scroll, eyedrop, they don't get a chance to think about it. They're gonna try to get some shots off, but with the armored van, it's gonna be very difficult, and Scroll still has to deal with all the teams ahead of him at Kappa Kappa.
And they have to, yeah, make that rotation, right? Hey, at least we didn't get a full north zone. I mean, we're east here, but it's about mid-map, so not too bad, not too bad. Malabuka walks ping in the zone finally. 5 elims on the board now, and despite getting those eliminations, still only 55 above. But this is honestly more than they could even ask for with the amount of materials and loot that they have. Now it's just about keeping it up. They might not get the best zone position. They might not have a bunch of extra loot, but at least they are in the game.
Might have to use that Memmis grenade sooner rather than later, though. But Walks trying to hold on to it, trying to see if he can punish Peterbor's team. We saw them spend a couple of moments tangling with eye drops because they needed that surge damage. But Walks now gonna nestle Malabuka's team at just 124 above. They still need to find some form of an elimination refresh. They want the elims, and they are punishing these teams that were just slower to the rotate than themselves. Great elimination, though. That's definitely going to build up a little bit of a buffer zone here. Juicy, Andy, and Finchek, though, look like they want to try and get involved. And consider that they're further ahead than Malabuka's team, they might be able to actually punish them once Malabuka's team leaves this boxed up position.
Yeah, they have a lot of build in front of them, so, you know, normally if you want to try and go on congested side, sometimes it's not possible. They're gonna have to follow through the builds that were already placed and do what they can to make it in, despite there being a lot of trios there already. But for Merstash, Queasy and Swizzy. They are quite low, kind of under the bridge almost, but at least they're safe here.
Depending on how this next zone pulls, it might actually work to their advantage, because then they could just look to layer swap and play on top of the bridge compared to where other teams might get stuck on the other side of the waterway. Still, so many teams starting to really pile up here. Opal, Panzer, and Thomas making the most of this hill face, though. But they want to get a move on. A little bit short on that rotate, but it gets the job done. Thomas and Panzer, Opal. They've got a little bit of damage above the threshold, but they definitely need some more.
Malibu has been knocked though. Walks has been fully eliminated. Both players down as Ping is left as a solo now with all the pressure on him. 91 above. I mean, they were able to get a bit of eliminations, a slight amount of placement. But I mean, they've still got good materials. Well, Ping's still got good materials. The only issue is with multiple trios focusing you, you got to either get close to another trio and, you know, make them get shots taken on them as well, or just hope you get people to stop shooting at you. But
he's so obviously a solo. They are going to keep shooting at this man. They do not want to let an individual survive these circumstances. Does spot a little bit of loot though. That might be slight saving grace. Swizzy, Queasy, and Merstash though have seemingly postured up above the bridge now. They took their opportunity to get that overhead space, and this is very familiar territory for them, considering that they land at Seaport City, Shining Span right next door, committing a lot of materials here, making sure that they can just have a huge metal lining to peek out from.
this is going to be an impressive rotate if he pulls this one off. I mean, he's got to swim. There's a lot of trios in front of him. If he can catch a player off guard, could be a massive refresh, but he's not able to connect the crucial shots. And Thomas HD with the drum gun is going to be able to take him out.
But Thomas was so split from where Panzer and Uppel are at that Uppel doesn't have the same luck as Thomas. He has been knocked very soon to be eliminated if a team can't get the job done. But Thomas, he's not going to be able to jump forward any further. This water zone is just so vicious. So many teams having to commit so much material. They just don't have the time to think about where they're headed next. They're just trying to get into the safety of the zone itself. Panzer might be able to build up a couple of placements here.
For the players on the edge here, it's the perfect opportunity to just kind of rain down from above on all the solos, trios that are trying to make their way in. And it's going to be Cami, Seti, and Hari who successfully have taken that high ground. This is prime positioning for them. It wouldn't even matter to them if it pulled back. It would be honestly perfect with the builds already placed and how difficult they would make it for the trios down below. There's only 9 trios left in this match. Devastating zone.
Queasy's team, though, is still kind of hovering that secondary height position for Doxy, Pablo, Chino. They'll tank a little bit of storm damage if it means getting into more optimal position. Pixie and Vanya, though, make that just Pixie because Vanya has been knocked. Pixie now watching in horror. Can't do anything for his teammates. He might not even be able to save himself once he's quick. The reaction times, but Jewel, Sangil, Tidy, they've got the advantage. And Pixie, he'll be forced to just play inside the storm, hope that this Chug Jug can get him a couple of additional placement spots.
Oh.
But it is a steep rotation, and as a solo, somebody is bound to notice him. He could look for a big pump shot, but it would take a lot of guts for him to pull it off, and Height has already noticed. But he sees the knock body. He wants to go for the 1v1, but he won't get that opportunity. Comeback falling directly next to him. Everybody getting cleared up.
Said we messed up. The zone didn't go north this game, so we got to make every single moving zone just keep going more north. For Doxy, Chino, Pablo, they're able to knock down one. Big refresh to allow them to continue on forwards. Cami, Seti, Hari starting to drop down a little bit here. They could be running low on materials and potentially looking for a refresh, but
every trio, every player down below on minimal materials, so little to work with. It's going to be all-out chaos.
Mustache completely ran out of mats. Hari, Cammy, Seti, they might have height control, but the zone, it's pulling back up the hill face slightly, and Queasy's team, they've committed to the low. Queasy's team now stuck, and they're gonna be collected victims of where this RNG is working against them. But Frodoxy, Chino, Pablo, they might have something to say. They might be able to steal this one away from Seti, Cammy, and Hari. And Frodoxy just narrowly peeking out. Pablo doesn't have any builds left, though. They're gonna have to fight their way through this one. Darm, Pix, completely cut off from each other, and that's gonna be another elimination added on for Pablo, Chino, and Frodoxy. They are making it work. Despite not having any mats to build with Takata, they are still clearing out this low front side. And Pablo, Frodoxy, Chino, they know we've just got to stay as close to each other as possible. There aren't that many players remaining. They can deal with Pix and Demas. It could be the difference maker here. Pix will be collected, but Chino, having been eliminated, now makes it all the easier for Seti, Kami. They could maybe make something big happen here, but Pablo, he is scrambling. Just so much pressure coming in from above. Cammy, Hari, Seti, they know that there is only 2 players standing in the way of them in this next Victory Royale, and they are hunting Frodoxy and Pablo down. The advantages are just so steeply in their favor. They've got the high ground. Frodoxy and Pablo surely completely out of materials, just clinging on to whatever HP they have left. But Seti, he'll be the first to fall. He's gonna play Disruptor. Cammy, Hari, now going for the backup, but Frodoxy, he might have done enough, but no! Cammy falls, and Hari's not gonna be able to do it! Pablo is gonna be the one to seal the deal here! Frodoxy's team had zero business winning this one out, and yet Pablo making sure the job gets done.
How do they let that happen? How do they let that happen, Taco? The 2v3, not only that, you said they gotta be running low on materials. Cammy, Seti, Hari, we're also running low, forced to drop down, and somehow, Frodoxy, Pablo, they got the job done. They take home the win. What a way to close out this match. Going into the game in 4th place, 1st and 2nd, getting knocked out. This is exactly what they needed to push themselves into that possibility of taking home this tournament.
It's just Frodoxy at the end there. He just had the singular tag he needed, the damage that he had to apply in that closing moment to make it so that Pablo could fully find that last elimination. But it's always tough when you get tangled up in those kinds of positions for both teams. Kudos, though, to Frodoxy's for holding on.
Oh, they did not miss a shot. Fred dropped down low, took out Seti. Pablo gets the back-to-back from Cammy onto Hari. What a way to finish it off. I mean, I'm lost for words, but I know 3 people that have got plenty, so let's head on over to the desk.
No, you don't understand. I don't have plenty after watching that. I don't know how you boys are faring, but oh my gosh, my jaw was on the floor as it has been multiple times this weekend. I didn't think it could get any lower, but I think I've got a bruise, Levin 2K, because that endgame was wild.
I still don't know how that happened. I'll be so... There's no reason why Cammy, Seti, and Hari should be losing that 3v2. I mean, come on, look, Frodoxy, Pablo, this game was so crucial for them, right? Because the 2 top dogs at the top of the leaderboard went down. The 2 top dogs left room open for that 3rd place team in Chino, Pablo, and Frodoxy to come through. And what a better game to do it, right? They had to win this game to put themselves into contention. And I think this would actually put them into 1st place on that leaderboard. But how do they win that 3v2, Mini? It's ridiculous.
Absolutely insane. I think it was Seti that dropped down a little bit prematurely there. Just didn't really work out for those guys.
He got
chopped down. Was it chopped? Yeah, that's what happened. But for these guys, I mean, Pablo Wingu there at the end has to be said. He was hitting some huge shots onto the trio on high. And just the way that these guys play these end games, we spoke about it. Is this now the time where we should start considering this team as a potential FNCS champion here in Chapter 6 Season 2? Absolutely unreal here. But they deserve it if they are going to do it, because they've been so consistent all weekend.
I mean, I just would have never thought we'd be going into game 9 of the FNCS finals here in EU with Pablo, Chino, and Fridoxy as the team in first place. There's still plenty of Fortnite to be played, but this team might just win Denmark's first FNCS. I don't want to speak too prematurely, but that's on the cards now. They're in contention after this game.
I feel like maybe we need to be sending Vico, Benno, and Flixie down to Moss Meadows.
Just go back, boys, please. Honestly.
Yeah. Let's just keep the drama coming. I've got my cup of tea. I'm ready for it, boys. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss Game 2. Guys, I didn't realize I booked multiple tickets to the cinema today because we are seeing picture after picture Mini Miner and I've run out of popcorn. I mean, where do we even start with what happened in that last game? Because you can see in the standings, it's making so much of a difference. All of these trios trying to surprise each other now. And we're definitely surprised by the fact that Pablo, Fridoxy and Chino are #1. They came from the last chance qualifiers, got Mars Meadows surprisingly uncontested, and now they're just doing everything they can with it to make a claim for global championships and the Blade of Champions.
This is interesting. You know, 6 points ahead of Malibuca's team now. If Malibuca's team do go down to Vico Flixie, if they do end up landing there, what will Vico, Ven, and Flixie do? It looks like Chino, Pablo, Wingo, and Fridoxy just being so consistent right now. So maybe we end up seeing the off-spawn fight that we were expecting at the beginning of the weekend. But for a lot of our teams there, lots of moving up in the standings.
I honestly, this is getting too crazy. This is a 4-horse race right now because Vanya's trio, you have to remember, they're, you know, in the 400 point range. They are behind but they have an opportunity there because the two teams ahead of them at any given point, like we saw last game, can just go down and get very minimal points, right? And so then it becomes a race between them and Pablo's trio, right? Look at that. If we have another game like that where Malabuka and Vico go down, it's going to get tough. I mean, that game for Malabuka is a bit bittersweet, right? Because they're able to get out of the off-spawn situation after all the third parties came in. Narrowly, though. Very narrowly. I think Veno's trio very much should have won that. They had so many opportunities to just clean them up. But Malabuka kept on fighting, and he reboots his team. He gets them back in the game. But from there, I mean, it's just too scuffed. They can't get a foothold on the game, and so they get very minimal points out of it.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but, you know, they did better than Vico, Ven, and Flixi, and for them, when they're getting landed on by them, that's all they need to do. They just need to keep bettering them, and that's what they're doing right now. So, yeah, for those guys, not an ideal game, but they need to start being a little bit more convincing off spawn. I think winning these fights a little bit quicker to not allow those third parties to come on through and to clean up.
It feels like we were talking a lot about Malabuka's team's consistency yesterday, the fact that the lowest they placed was an 8th. But now my eye is on Marius, Pixie and Vanya Levin, because they seem to have these clutch plays where they manage to just get themselves the highest placement point possible even when things are going wrong.
Absolutely, and that's what you need. That's what you need in an FNCS win and run, right? Vanya knows that very well. When he won his last year with Swizzy, he had 2 amazing clutches that were able to sort of help secure them the win. And that's what you're going to need today if you're going to be able to catch up with some of the people ahead of them. And they have that ability, right? I think that's never been a question when you have Marius, Vanya, and Pixie on the same team. But that consistency to keep playing in these end games when some of their top competitors might not be, right? And that's really the problem here. I would like to see more of these end games where it is all 3 of them as a trio, right? We talk about that. They're making it there, but it's a bit too scuffed at times. Maybe 1 or 2 of them still up.
Yeah, and I think they might be in the perfect position almost to sort of take home this FNCS, because they're almost the team that nobody's really concerned about, right? They're the quiet team just outside of that big top 3. So if Vico, Veno, Flixi keep contesting Malabuka, then maybe they go and contest Fred Oxy's team. If these guys can keep being consistent, keep picking up those placements, they could find themselves with it all to play for in game number 12.
Do you see this as a team that might take risks the same way that the likes of Vico, Veno and Flixi would mini minor? Do you think they're going to change anything significantly just to try and eke themselves up into that #1 spot?
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen for these guys. I think they're going to stick to what they know because it's been working out. And as I mentioned, they're landing, you know, sort of towards the north side of where Vico, Ven and Flixi now are landing there at Lone Wolf Lair. So they're going to be enjoying that third-party potential and hopefully for them getting more surge. So I don't think they're going to really switch too much up because you have to remember they're in the global spots as well. So it's not like, you know, they're all out going for an FNCS win. They also want to qualify for global, so the risk might not be worth it.
Vanya's tasted victory before. I wonder how hungry he is for it right now. We're going to head to game number 9, though, because the battle bus is ready with Taco and Takata.
I'd imagine incredibly hungry. I mean, everybody wants to be the Blade of Champions wielder, and that is exactly what's at stake here for so many of our teams, especially within that top 4, Takata. Things are getting incredibly narrow. When the points are this tight-knit, anything could happen.
It's insane. I mean, NA had an insane finish on day 1. EU, the script writer, said we gotta match the hype here. On day 2, absolute change, and we don't have to wait long for game 9. So let's get into it.
Veno's trio has certainly been the catalyst for so much of the mayhem that's unfolded in day 2 of our Major 2 finals, Takata, but other teams are certainly taking notice. Lone Wolf Lair, if that off-spawn doesn't get cleaned up very rapidly, the third-party exchanges are only going to continue to build up because teams always want to take advantages when presented with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they gotta finish that fight so quickly, but it's difficult to do. I mean, it's 2 of the best trios in the region, and here we go once again. I'm gonna call it a 101 draw on the most recent match. Veno, Vico, Flixi took the first one, and once again, Veno, Vico, Flixi get the drop on the top of the building. I believe Vico had a shotgun last match, and I didn't see a lot of Malabuka's trio with them, so we'll see how loot goes this time around.
3rd time's the charm, though, for Veno, Vico, and Flixi. Malabuka just lurking outside the doorways. Vico and Flixi just clearing out the floors, but it's a close-in. Walks completely caught off guard.
Whoa.
Vico immediately jumping into the box with his teammates, and that is 1 pick already exchanged. Vico, Flixi, Veno, They're just going to continue tearing through now as a trio. There's no reason to separate. Flixie and Veno have taken different directions, though. They're going to reunite and ping immediately. The moment he exposes himself, just gets eliminated for it. 2 already in favor of Vico. He is out on a rampage after what went down in game 2, but that is the time to elimination. You are after other teams. If they were thinking about Lone Wolf Lair, you're gonna have to reorient where you want to go, because that's already said and done. It's gonna be tough to actually break into where Veno, Vico, and Flixie are at.
Perfectly executed engagement there. That's how you got to do it. Now we'll see if they can get another huge game. I mean, the game that they were able to finish off Spawn that quickly in the first match, they won the whole game. So if they can repeat that, it's going to put them back into first place. For Savage, Reason and Vadil, on the other hand, Reason has been eliminated, now leaving them as a duo, but they do know there's a whole trio down on the southern side of the split there, so we'll see how that plays out. But Vanya, Pixie, Marius doing what they've been doing on Contested at Flooded.
And they've definitely had a pretty successful day 2 so far, but obviously they're not going to be satisfied with their current position. Again, all of these teams are shooting to actually be the champions of this season. It's not just that global championship bus ticket that you're solidifying, but the prize pool differences are also going to come into play. And for many of these teams, it's just the pride element too.
It's insane to think too. Fredoxy, Pablo, and Chino qualified through the last chance qualifier. Only 3 trios make it through that final opportunity. And now they're in first place of the major finals, from last chance qualifier to potentially getting the first major FNCS win for Denmark. I mean, this is an insane storyline that we have building up. We are on game 9 of 12. We've seen how much can change in just a single match, but they are en route for something legendary.
But they might be suffering from success if they're not careful. Have to remember, if Veno, Vico, and Flixie are able to replicate their game 7 success, find that Victory Royale, I would not be the least bit surprised to see them contest Mass Meadows and shut down Fredoxy's team.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, you know, they have been switching it up so much. Imagine we get to game 12, first and second is basically between Fredoxy and Veno. They just land Mass Meadows, no, and go for it. Bring on a show. Hey, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll see what does end up happening, but that could be insane. For Swizzy, Queasy, and Maristache, looks like they are just kind of doing their standard Seaport base here on this hill that they always tend to go to and take shots where they can.
Just trying to keep heads up. Advantages over Thomas's team with the surge bases. Chino, Pablo, and Fredoxy south of Mass Meadows, but on the move. Always get a little bit scared driving when you're the one that's stuck in the back of the armored van. Maybe a little bit afraid if Fredoxy or Chino aren't good drivers that they're gonna send you flying from outside of that vehicle, but they just wanted the safety rotate. There's no one really around to prevent them from playing edge of zone, but they're willing to actually dip back into it because they want to go for the fight at Hopeful Heights. And Fredoxy creeping up, fully aware of the fact that there's still a team nearby, and it's going to be Cheatons. And they don't want to allow them to exit Hopeful Heights, at least not without playing a part and looking for some knocks or elims, trying to build up that surge.
Yeah, that was a fight here in the last match. And I believe, you know, they're just trying to find kind of that sneaky 3-2-1 or anything really to catch them off guard. And this could be it.
Trexer is the one in the danger zone, and finally, Fredoxy's team gonna light him up. Trexer immediately knocked. Robin can't even reconsider whether or not he wants to try and help out his teammate. He is just fully on the run, cheating, completely separated from the rest of his team. Also, Fredoxy just chasing him out. HP advantage distinctly in Fredoxy's favor, and so much quicker And Cheatin just nowhere left to run, completely edge of the map now. It just feels inevitable for Prodoxy's team to claim this final elimination out of the trio.
I mean, at this point, if I'm cheating, I'm using all my metal. I'm throwing all my heals. I'm saying, I'm giving you the least amount of things I can give you, because it's going to be very difficult to come out on top. But, you know, this is huge for Prodoxy, Chino, and Pablo. Not only did they take first in the last match, but now they're looking like they're set up for a solid game here. It's only the early game, but this is how you want to start it off.
But when Prodoxy's team has been repeat challenging Hopeful Heights, that's bound to cause for some adjustments for Cheatin's trio later on. We'll see what Game 10 potentially has in store for them. Scroll, I drop Sky, though. They're not willing to try and get their surge like everybody else in the base strategy. They are just, one more time, looking for the box fights outright. Whiffy Wharf. And this is nice for Scroll, iDrop, and Sky, because right now there's no third-party involvement, and that's exactly how you want to keep it when you are challenging these other teams directly.
Okay. A little bit of explosives being put on top of Rickbor. Rickbor, Zara, and Zangi they've been having some difficult moments at these matches. I feel like they're always getting aggressed on, having to play defensive. And this time around, being iDrop, Sky, and Scroll, they don't really want to give them a break.
It's just the end result of Scroll, iDrop, and Sky, and landing at Shiny Shafts, Uncon. So they're going to have to make up for that surge damage eventually. Prodoxy, Chino, and Pablo, once they started to depart, though, from Hopeful Heights, countered Dexy. And Dexy just trying to get out. Chino, the huge chunk of his HP, finds the final tag. That's going to be a knock. Just running him down entirely. Gotta be wary, though. Prodoxy falling incredibly low, but the backup of his teammates, it's all said and done. Another fight going cleanly the way of Prodoxy's team. They are making a statement with each of their lobbies today, Takada.
They really are. I mean, not only were they confident before, but now after that clutch against Kami, Seti, and Hari, they're on another level now. Just pushing trio after trio. You gotta say, okay, you know, now you can stop now, right? You got 6 eliminations, you're good. Go with the rotate, get your mats capped. Like, the job's done for now. This is incredible for them, though. They are so set up in terms of points with the elims to just play as safely as they need to, get the best positioning they can. I'm excited to see how this match plays out for them. Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer had a rough game in the last match. They were looking for a good position, but Thomas ended up getting caught off guard, I believe, by Ping when he was playing as a solo. Kind of split up the trio, and they weren't able to get a lot of points, so we'll see if that changes this time around. At Seaport, gotta have your eyes on, you know, where's Queasy at.
But at the end of the day, all Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer really need to do is maintain that position inside of that top 7 threshold on the leaderboard. They're skirting the line, though, in 6th, heading into this lobby. And with so many teams close behind, they probably want to have a pretty standout performance to kind of just separate them from the rest of the pack. Mustache and Swizzy, they're going to have to take a detour all the way back into Storm. Hope that they don't attract too much attention for it. Losing Queasy, a pretty big blow to their rotational strategies, and they've been forced out of Seaport entirely.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the amount of trios kind of around Seaport at this point. Normally, Queasy's taking advantage of these trios. You know, he's shooting them now on their base as they're rotating through, even letting them pass in some examples and continuing to take those shots. But after getting eliminated, that's going to, you know, damage a big part of the whole Surge strat. So I'm curious to see how they're going to hold up in terms of damage later on into this match now, with this being the case.
Well, they made it over to Shining Span, so Queasy will be brought back into the action. But yeah, with so many teams inside of Seaport itself, these guys are certainly in for a bit of a doozy. Launchpad will help them out just a little bit, but One positive I think to keep in mind is it's usually Swizzy and Merstash who are on surge damage duties, so they might not have lost as much as what they could have possibly lost in terms of having to play for Queasy's reboot. It is still annoying though when you lose that prime positional advantage. Twy punishing Savage and Vadil. They were looking for a fringe play themselves, trying to get Reason back into the match, and Twy's team, they had to pounce on the opportunity. They've been playing a huge catch-up game for the entire weekend.
Now, Demus, Hicks, and Darm have only made it into the top 10 once. And when they did, you know, get 9 eliminations. They had a good game, but they really are having difficulties. Actually, I'm mistaken. They made it to the top 10 a few times. And when they do, they perform well. They've gotten 4th, 3rd. But a lot of games, they're also getting eliminated around 20th. So they're kind of just lacking that, you know, consistency of constantly making top 10s, but it's balanced out enough to put them in 10th going into this match. Issue is, you got to be top 7 if you want to qualify to the Global Championship, so they're going to have to do a little better for these last few matches.
And I know in Major 1, these guys were given that, you know, shock the world conclusion because of their 5th place performance with their first time finals appearance as a team, but even if this major doesn't pan out how they would obviously be hoping for, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. Those guys still have such a high skill ceiling that they can keep trying to push towards. I mean, the coach like Sven behind them, wouldn't be surprised to see them reach that threshold at a pretty rapid rate. But teams like Cammy, Hardy, Seti, they already know what it takes to be in those winning positions. And it's going to come a relatively difficult way for them because every other team has the same strategy in mind. We are looking for our surge bases.
There's a lot of them around this side of the map. It's one of those clusters. I mean, we talked about it, minimizing risk, but at the same time, it would be nice to see a little bit more close quarters combat. This is good, though, for Vanya, Marius, and Pixie. They can keep themselves safe, looking for damage when they, you know, see the openings, and even be on the uncongested side if Zone continues pulling up north. Vico, Veno, Flixie still at the same spot. They dropped that. They did have Island spawn close to them as well, which is pretty nice.
They didn't really have a reason to leave Lone Wolf considering how the zone pool, but Queasy, Merstash, Swizzy possibly in a spot of trouble here, dealing with Trulex and Noah Riley. Health advantage in their favor, though. Trulex not wanting to get stuck between Swizzy, but Rock in a hard place. There's nowhere left for him to run. Trulex will be eliminated. Noah Riley could be next. Swizzy certainly hunting for it. Merstash gonna take a moment just to replenish his shields. But with Swizzy and Queasy playing backup, Shark is just forced to retreat. 2 of the fraggers, though. That's probably who you'd want to be left in a fighting position out of Trulex's team. They could make something big happen here. They could also pose a huge problem if they do find another knocker elimination onto Queasy's team, and Queasy's team, they know better than to stick around for it. They already got what they were after in terms of damage. They want to just start rotating out now because the lobby has started to take notice of what's going down on this mountainside.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. They weren't able to do their normal surge route, so opting to kind of needing to take a fight. It's a good idea to do now before you're in desperation being low on surge. Pablo, Fred, and Chino now in zone. We saw they got those 6 eliminations early on, so they're more than comfortable enough here to not do anything too crazy. 832 above.
It's exactly where they want to be, and they're not caught in the heart of some of the congestion that's actually building inside of Flooded Frogs. So many teams just looking to try and leverage some of the natural landscape. Thomas up on Panzer, also a little bit on the outskirts. And Thomas, Panzer, Uppel, they're just going to continue trying to find their own position It's away from most of the commotion. Unfortunately, Thomas realizing that there are teams that have a slightly elevated point of view and taking advantage of it.
Yeah, they don't really mind to kind of stay in zone here. They know it's very likely that people rotate through, especially the Magic Moss's area. You can see with the drone shot, the trios that are going to be choosing to do so as well. It is kind of a waiting game for now, though. They even pulled zone. Not bad at all. See them moving around. They're like, hold on a minute. Wait, we already got a base here. We can just kind of take it over, make it ours. Little surprised with the RNG from that pull, but this is good.
No complaints, though, either. Definitely a nice spot to be in. Just repurposing some of these pre-existing builds, but some real big powerhouse teams off in the distance that could definitely be held here by Thomas's trio. And Queasy, though, everybody always commends his IG yelling, and for good reason. He knows better. He knows that if they try to just white line into zone, they're only going to be picked off for it. They're going to do a complete wraparound through Magic Mosses. Swizzy does have a couple of med kits on top of the med miss grenade, so the white heals might be enough to sustain them through, and they are just holding out with the damage threshold too. So waiting things out could end up saving them from being eliminated too soon.
There's the last zone that can kind of do that, though. It goes from 1 tick to 2 tick in this zone, and after it, it's going to be 5 tick, the damage that they receive from being inside the storm. So kind of want to start making their way closer and closer to the zone to prepare for that 7th zone when it does start doing 5 damage per second. Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer, though, great job holding on to the base. As it looks like Vico Venoflixi opting to a similar strat.
Yeah, just such a tough spot for Queasy's team because it would look like it was going to be a nice wraparound. They realized too much commotion still coming through Flooded Frogs. We're not going to be able to go that way either. But Veno's team also, in the benefits, Pixie trying to get the revive off now onto Marius. Other teams, though, looking in, trying to see if they can claim Marius's life, but Chino, Prodoxy, Pablo, no success. No success either for Pink's team. And this could be an outright brawl between these 3 trios. Pixie, Vanya, and Marius, though, they just don't want to be sandwiched. They're not interested in being the middleman for this conversation. They don't necessarily need to fight right now either.
It's quite unfortunate because they literally pulled zone all the way and flooded their drop spot. So getting the focus on them is not what you want happening. But they aren't going to choose to kind of elevate themselves yet. They're just going to stay in the builds they already had. Surprised Marius is at 0 metal at this point, having, you know, to not rotate that much throughout the match, but it is the most scarce resource. Just kind of camp it to see in case someone goes through the porta potty, but for now they're good.
Marius is just waiting for the green light, holding out that splash. He knows they've got to move ahead of the lobby. And Thomas just doing what Thomas does best with that mythic drum gun, spraying and controlling the flow of the teams outside of where they're currently based up. But Panzer, just sliver of HP, somehow manages to finagle his way back to his team. But this is a troublesome spot. Everybody that was shooting this direction bound to know how incredibly hurt Panzer is. And sure enough, they're not letting up the pressure. Panzer completely dropped now. Seti, Hari, Cammy overtaking the high position that Thomas once held moments ago. But the double revive will at least work out. They've got to get out of this spot, though. They don't want to get caught waiting just one step too long. They're trying to clear out a path forward. They're trying to force some of the other teams ahead of them to move to a separate spot. But everybody just trapped right now in edge of zone.
Yeah, I mean, not only did they lose a good opportunity for, or a good position, but also just the opportunity for those tags. For Doxy, Pablo, and Chino, though, luckily enough, don't have to worry as much about that, and even have pulled 8th zone here. This is massive for them as they're going to conserve so many materials and have free shots on the players around them. As you can see, already pre-building out with those hard builds, getting ready for what's to come. Merch, Stash, Swizzy, Queasy, though, are below, getting ticked by Surge. put them into panic, as now all they need to do is connect one shot. Obviously, they want to be above as much as possible, but come on, one bullet is all it's going to take to stop losing HP here.
A literal single shot. It does seem like they finally managed to find it, but still only 8 above. Flubshy's team now trying to barrel into their builds, but that's the hits that we need, and Mustache gonna find 2 back-to-back eliminations. Couldn't have come at a better time. The Siphon also going to make it easy for him to reunite with Queasy and Swizzy, but still a lot of congestion towards this backside of the zone. But with that additional damage, they now feel confident to be able to just kind of scale their way, elevate a little bit from that total low ground, and try to find their next position. Not an easy task, though, by any means.
Up above, it's gonna be Shaftsky. Luckily enough, did not take fall damage, which is good. Vico, Veno, Flixie, on the other hand, trying to be the first ones here to rotate towards this side. Will they see it as an option to build up, or will they just play it safe here and keep on building into zone? We've seen them do height takes quite later on in these matches. They're not so focused on doing it early if the zones aren't in their favor. But Mustache, Queasy, and Swizzy are going to be the ones that are looking to hold it.
Okay, Mustache on a bit of a roll now. 4 eliminations, and he has found all of them in the past couple of minutes. Trying to get to this front side, and it's going to cost Queasy everything. So he gets knocked along the way. Always a bit of a risky maneuver, but Mustache, he doesn't care. He knows it's just time to frag out. Swizzy, too, finds Seti on the rotate. That's going to sabotage Poland just a bit here, but Swizzy, if he's not careful, he'll find himself in a similar route. He's just going to break through the builds, tag along with Mustache now. He at least has that lawless slap jug, but how much more do they have to do? There's so many other teams on the low ground, and for Doxy's team, they are based in a pretty set mid layer. Looking down at the front side low, Chicho and Tayson, they might have to deal with Doxy's team shortly.
Vanya, Marius, Pixie with the zone pull were able to claim height. Vico, Veno, Flixie down below, trying to see if they can claim low for now. A lot of full trios that are up and ready to go. Cringe Volko on the side, doing what they can to get into zone. Right now, just anything possible to stay up.
This is home field, though, for Vico, Flixie, and Veno. This is where they found success in Major 1 finals. So for it to be running back now, Vico, Flixie, Veno, they are just trailing through this front side low. Chino on the other end of the wall. Chino will manage to escape, but Vico, he is looking for the Elans wherever he can find them. Uphold just trying to remain concealed. Out of sight, out of mind type mentality. Gonna try and even utilize a Team's Madness grenade, but doesn't even make it in. Gets eaten alive. Marius, Pixie, Vanya, though, this is a nice spot to be. They've got the high ground control, but they are low on mats. They're just trying to spray and prevent any teams from challenging the height takeover. But they need to be careful. They don't want to overexpose themselves. And with these wood builds, teams are going to be looking to chop them out.
Chops are coming through. They're doing a good job maintaining. The issue is, you got the #1 trio for Doxy, Pablo, Chino. All 3 players are still up. They are playing this perfectly in terms of securing as much placement as possible. They have not even had to look for a single refresh for a majority of this endgame, but now's the time. They're starting to run through. Their aggression's onto them. Pink knocking on the door. Is going to get knocked down. Nebs falls shortly after. Pablo, Chino for Doxy now continuing to build on towards zone.
From teammates to enemies, Pablo, Chino for Doxy. Then they get that wipe hunt to Pink as a tough blow. But Veno, he's still a part of the conversation. He already found a victory royale in the day in match 7, and you can tell that he's after it yet again. Pablo just trying to maintain a little bit of composure in that mid ground, but Veno, Flixie, Vico, they are just steadily so tightly knit. And for Doxy, could be in a world of trouble here, but Veno, he's just trying to break through. Darm, Demas, Pix, they are still a trio, but for how much longer? Because Vico, Flixie, Veno, they chop them down. And that's going to be the first elimination onto Darm. Flixie having been return fire, though. This is a big casualty, though, for Ferdoxi's team. Mayday situation, and they are out of the
Vico!
running here.
With 7 eliminations, there's a reason he's leading the pack in the lobby, but I might have spoken too soon. Marius shuts him down. This is perfect for Vanya, Pixie, and Marius. They had all the trios down below face off against each other. Now, giving them that player advantage, 2 trios left. 6 players, all they need to do is close this off, but Pixie has been knocked down. Chug Jug in hand, 6 splashes. Med Mist, is it going to be enough to win the heal off?
That's going to be the only intention here, but Vanya is getting completely chased out. Atris hot on his heels. Atris knows if I don't find this final shot, that's going to leave it down to Tayson to try and see if he can battle it out for the heal off. But Vanya, he's managed to find a plethora of whites, another Menmis grenade, another Chug Jug even. Sure, they're just remnants, but it could be the difference maker here. Tayson now on the move. Tayson doesn't have any whites remaining. He's just trying to find Vanya. He breaks into the box, but Tayson can't get the final shot. Vanya manages to hold on here, and that was nearly disastrous for Vanya's team, but a huge moment that they were able to capitalize on.
So close to a tragic ending. Tayson connected his shot, but it was just, what, 10, 15 damage away from taking out Vanya, and he was able to close it out. It was basically a 1 versus 3. He managed to escape while all 3 of Tayson's players, were still up and going. He managed to start the heal off. He closed the gap when Tayson pushed in, and they ended up securing that win. This is going to shake up the leaderboard.
It's just crazy to think, though, that Vanya nearly missed out on securing the win here, but respect to Tayson. You've got to put some respect on Tayson's name for trying to run him down at the end there. Still, a lot that took place here in Game 9. So, Frankie, what have you got for us?
Well, I've got the feeling that Tayson remembered that this is a major final, and so he was like, oh yeah, I'm always in those. I need to show up. And a fantastic second place for his trio, onwards and upwards for those guys. However, it's more of the same from Marius, Pixie, and Vanya Mini Miner. A 3rd victory royale. I'm not going to question Vanya's hunger ever again.
Yeah, wow. I mean, we talked about it going into that game, how important it is now for them to step up to the plate and really just keep applying that pressure onto that sort of top 2 that are battling it out right now. And they've just done that with aplomb right there. Really great work from those guys. What I liked about that end game, as we saw in individual moments in those highlights, was every single teammate, every single player in that trio had an impact. We saw Pixie going absolutely crazy there at the backside of zone, getting elimination, using the new mobility, or the new movement, I should say. We saw, of course, Marius jumping into the box of Vico there at the end to eliminate him, and then of course Vanya right at the end, just surviving on 5 HP. Every single person played their part, and that's what that trio is so good at.
Once again, Mini Man are just summing it up perfectly, right? I mean, you look at... No, genuinely though, but it's spot on. They have been so relentlessly good at all having a big impact, right? And I think that's one of the things when this team first formed. I think when you looked at, you have 3 big names, 3 talented players. It's like, how do they gel together as a team? They've done that excellently, but games like this where they do show the individual impact each of them can have, it is part of why they are a team, again, that has to be considered in that formula, right? When I was talking before the game, I said, look, it's a 4-horse race. These guys are in it with another good game, and straight away, they come through and win the next game. So you love to see it. I'm just so curious about how the leaderboard looks now, Frankie, because there were so many of our top teams in that endgame, so many good teams in that endgame. Of course, we're looking at the race for who's actually going to win it all, but even just some of the teams just below fighting for global spots, a lot of those teams were in it at the end there. So it's really heating up in the back end of this tournament now.
That top 10 was indeed full of big names you would expect to make it to the Fortnite Global Championships, but we only have 5 spots for our trios tonight, so we'll be finding out who is going to be edging ever closer to Leon after this break. Welcome back to the FNCS Europe Major 2 finals. We have 3 more games before we find out who will be taking the Blade of Champions, and it's getting tougher and tougher at the top. So we should take a look at the leaderboard and see who's currently in pole position, because this is such an interesting one. We definitely were not expecting Chino, Pablo and Fredoxy to show up with this level of ferocity and consistency, Mini Miner. It's interesting to see Vanya, Pixie and Marius with 3 victory royales. The reason they're not currently number 1 is because they didn't necessarily have the best day 1. But do you think if they can continue on this trajectory, they'll be challenging for that number 1 spot?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a team that, as we just broke down right there, they have all the ingredients for success. They're just outside of that, you know, sort of top 2, so they're not necessarily going to be focused on by maybe Vico, Veno, Flixi. Who knows, that might change. But yeah, really great stuff from Chino, Pablo and Fredoxy, who, you know, they haven't been in this situation before, right? This is a team that we don't necessarily see in this position, but they're just stepping up to the plate and they're doing it very well.
So Vico, Veno and Flixi, let's talk about these guys. Still sitting in 2nd position. Oh, sorry, let's talk about Chino. Why not? Let's talk about Chino, Pablo and Fredoxy 11, because, I mean, it's a lovely fragging movie every single time we watch these guys.
Absolutely. I think the key thing that we have to say about this team now is going into the back end of the tournament, they've been so consistent that really and truly there isn't going to be something that sort of, you know, becomes a problem for them and stops them from, you know, getting to end games unless someone lands on them, right? Like, it's sort of like how Malabuka was yesterday and going into today. We were all saying, unless someone lands on them, they're just going to keep on playing these games out. Their surge plan is so ironclad, they're going to keep making it to end games. Similar thing can be said now for Fredoxy. So unless, you know, Veno's trio, which we obviously know they landed, Mars Meadows this season, decides, hey, we're going to land on you guys, I think it's going to be hard for anyone to almost overtake them. They're going to keep making it deep into these games.
Well, I feel like the obvious thing to predict would be Vico, Veno and Flixi. They destroy Malabuka's trio again at Lone Wolf Lair, like they did in game number 9 that we just witnessed. And then potentially they do set their sights on the guys above them, 11. Do you think that could be on the cards?
Yeah, and I have to say, we really do need to talk about that off spawn. As much as the end game was great, they wiped them, Mini, so quickly. Like, that must have been so demoralizing for Malabuka, Wox, and Ping. And this next game is going to be a huge test of their character. How can they bounce back from that? Because, you know, we've all played Fortnite. We've all been there before where you do go down off spawn a couple games in a tournament, and it is rough. Like, you know, you start questioning things. And with how great their tournament was going, Mini, to how things are stacking up now and them sort of dropping and falling a bit behind the rest of the competition here at the top. Yeah, I'm wondering how their mentals are handling this.
Yeah, I said it earlier, and that game just proved it yet again. The Vico, Veno, Flixi are making it look like Malabuka's team are now the team that are coming on into this drop spot. They just seem to know it inside and out. Their synergy is unreal at the moment, and yeah, it's absolutely right. Will they now use that confidence to really go on and kick on and hopefully find some more success in these games? Because if there's any team that you don't want to be giving confidence to off spawn and then later on in the game, it's these guys. They play off of that confidence, they feed off of it, and it just sets the tone for the entire game when they do win off spawn. So yeah, they got to do something here, Malabuka, to stop the wrath of this guy's off spawn.
Well, let's see what they do, because game 10 is ready. Let's head to Taco and Takata.
I like what you said, Frankie. I like what you said, because if you do think about it, Veno, Vico, Flixi, they end up, you know, wiping Malabuka off spawn again. And then they're kind of in that first and second battle against Fredoxy, and, you know, they're landing the drop spot that they're comfortable with. Will they make another change? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Taco?
The problem, though, is if they do challenge Mass Meadows, then that means that Malabuka, Ping, and Wox are left to reign free from Lone Wolf Lair, and we saw how much success they had when uncontested for the most part in day 1. Doubt that they want to let that go for free, but we'll find out exactly what Veno's up to here in Game 10.
There's a lot that can happen, but I do believe that at least for this next match, we will have that Malabuka versus Veno once again at Lone Wolf. Fredoxy's trio, on the other hand, hopefully uncontested and can continue kind of with their first place wrath. But this is getting interesting. This is definitely getting interesting.
It's been building over the course of these past few lobbies, and knowing that there is no point multiplier has been a real separating factor here. These teams fully aware of the fact that they've just got to perform through each and every single lobby. You can't afford a slip up in day 2. But vico, Veno, Flixi, they just continue to try and brute force Lone Wolf Flare away from Malabuka's trio. And if they have the same success that they did in Game 9, Takata, it would mean disastrous results potentially for Malabuka's team, because everyone else on the leaderboard also starting to play catch up.
It's like, once again, perfect drop for vico. Looks like the same for his teammates once again. Last time they were able to finish this fight up quickly. You were mentioning it, but it's easier said than done. That Sentinel shotgun is going to help. Double shotgun, actually, alongside shields. This could be huge for vico, Veno, Flixi. All they have to do is start aggressing.
vico wants to be careful, though. Infiltrator, not necessarily as optimal as the Sentinel can be, but Malabuka, he wants revenge. He's sick and tired of what Veno has been doing to his team's odds for wielding that blade of champions. They want to actually get the ball rolling here at Lone Wolf, but if they don't find a conclusion to this fight, it could also mean a third party. Flixi overhead. Even exchange so far. vico trying to use the thermite now to break open some builds. Both of these teams incredibly low on materials, haven't really had a chance to farm, but Wox, he might be the first one counted out. Ping, Malabuka, they've got to do something to try and play some supportive measures here for Wox.
They're taking too long, Taco. They're taking too long once again. Not a single knock has been made. You can see the trio's kind of creeping on in. I wonder if they're ever going to make that decision after this fight. You know, is it too late? Once the third parties actually arrive and you can see them beside you, you get to the point where, you know, we might not even be able to take this fight, and both trios have to kind of disengage with not a good amount of loot. And so far, it's looking like it's going to be a slow one.
The third party would probably be more of a concern if it wasn't for the fact that Veno, vico, Flixi, Malabuka's team, there haven't been any knocks from either direction. So you have to be a little bit hesitant if you are that third party, because you don't know the state of affairs for either of these teams currently. So the third party, sure, they're hovering the vicinity, but they don't feel quite confident to strike just yet, and for good reason. But Malabuka just continuing to play the stealth game, continuing to try and gather whatever builds he can. Flixi, heavy duress, he's got to bail out. Malabuka trying to cut him off, but Veno, he'll be the supportive overlook for Flixi. Try to keep Malabuka's team at bay, and Veno also keeping tabs on the surrounding area, fully aware of the fact that this is an open invitation for third parties with how drawn out it's been so far.
Yeah, I mean, we saw on the minimap, though, there aren't any players incredibly close. You have a really glove-shoes trio who's kind of like looking, but they're not fully scouting beside Lone Wolf yet. If this continues taking longer, though, it might get to that point. As so far, it is just that back and forth, playing the vault game. Looking to see who can get the bigger trade. Shots come through, nothing connecting.
The problem, though, is that Veno's team has funneled everybody from Malabuka's into that vault, and with the loot differences, Veno, vico, Flixi probably gonna have to back off temporarily. Malabuka, Ping, Wox still trying to see if there's a clear opening for them to try and find the upper hand at last. It's also, like Minnie mentioned, a matter of pride and confidence. You don't want your confidence to start to waver, and if Malabuka's team can't find some kind of winning conversion factor here, it's always going to be a little bit of a mental game on the players.
They've kind of let them out of the vault now, as they don't want to take that kind of back and forth right on the borderline on the doorway. Both teams just getting as many materials as they can. You can see when you reach this level, these players are constantly doing something. Even if you're waiting for a team, you're constantly farming, you're constantly doing what you can to give yourself that upper hand. Even scouting around the surroundings, you know, is there any other trio creeping up on us? Are we good to take this fight? Are we safe? And I feel like it's coming soon.
The Lone Wolf Mansion has been absolutely gutted, though. Holes everywhere, floors just missing all over the place. but that's providing some decent angles that Veno was clearly trying to make use of. Malabuka, ping, walks. They know better than to separate. They know that could be the differentiating factor between being knocked or eliminated versus a winning conclusion here. Vico just continuing to pressure. Veno clearing out even more floor space. They want as many angles as possible before they make this approach. But this fight has been going on forever, Takata, and neither side really getting enough damage. Other teams, even if they don't third party, they're still handling their search strategy. But these guys are going to be one step behind the rest of the lobby.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken that long. The zone can pull far, or even it can stay here. Either option, they're going to be behind. Veno, Vico, Flixi have decided, okay, we got to, you know, we already farmed up all we can here. We've done what we could. I guess we got to start, you know, moving around, doing more productive things. So we'll see how it plays out overall. The fight isn't finished yet, I'm sure. But for Doxy, Chino, and Pablo, though, they have been kind of leaning towards third-partying, hopeful when it gets stuck in zone and finding those fights around there. But this time around, it is going to be a Surge base.
One of just 3 teams that haven't had to deal with those Surge damage ticks. Was a big part of the reason why, too. Their Surge-based methods, on top of their challenges at Hopeful Heights. When they don't feel like they've acquired enough Surge from inside the base, they take matters into their own hands. They're willing to go that extra mile and find a more direct fight if necessary. Thomas, Panzer, and Uppel, though, definitely being wary as they make their way around Hopeful. And they're also trying to nestle themselves inside of that top 7 of the leaderboard. When you know that Vico and Malabuka's teams are inside of the top 5, obviously it's going to drop an extra couple of spots for the leaderboard, but Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer, they don't want it to be close. They want to confidently be inside of that threshold.
Yeah, and I mean, literally being the cutoff at 7th place, I mean, it's not going to feel bad, but it's not going to feel great, right? Like you said, you want to be a bit more comfortable at this point. All it takes is one good game. Vico, Veno, and Flixi. Vico has been popping off, as always, in terms of eliminations. I mean, he's literally leading the pack in the lobby at 38 elims, and 2nd place has 23. So it's not even close for this trio. I mean, it can consider the fact that they have just been playing around fighting throughout this whole weekend, different drop spots, constantly looking for third parties, and obviously popping off in those end games. But it is impressive. They want to go 4 for 4 this year. They want to not just take home the majors. They want to take home the global championship. They already booked their tickets in Major 1. And to continue that trend, they're going to have to win this major as well.
But any top team would want to assume that they're going to be capable of winning out every single event. You have to have that confidence as a player, because there are going to be moments where you can't look to cruise. And this is one of them for sure, because Veno, he wasn't content with how day 1 worked out for them. Obviously, they were able to get some nice upsets, but they weren't willing to just let Malabuka have his way. And looking for those high risk, looking for those immediate challenges, it's something that a lot of these other teams are probably going to start setting up for Takata, because they know if they are outside of that top 7 cutoff, they only have, you know, we are past the halfway point. Only this lobby and a couple more to go, and after that, if you're out, you're out.
And it looks like Grippe is going to land a good amount of shots here on Marius. You don't want to be going out this early. Venya, Pixie, Marius instantly going to box up, take some shots back and forth. Looks like Grippe, Glepsy, and Prax, though, they want more than just a few tags. Said, we don't want to do the AR shots from afar. We want to get up close and personal. Take these fights for Surge. They see the shots come from afar. They see the danger potential and decide, okay, we got enough for now.
Grippe getting lit up from Lone Wolf Lair because Malabuka's team is still in control of that position. And them being forced to reconsider their approach. That's that's definitely a pretty tough spot to be in, but it's not like they can't circle back through. Swizzy, Merstache, and Queasy, on the other hand, it's been a relatively volatile day two. Certainly not the kind of day two that we might have anticipated based off how day one went for Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstache. But the way that some of these teams have made their adjustments, it's been very difficult for these guys to kind of maintain their position at Seaport.
To be fair, they've played quite similar to yesterday if you just take out the win. If they never won that match, their placements aren't too bad. An 8th, a 5th, a 15th. They're getting to those late games, but they're missing that big game. We know how often they kind of play for those big matches with the height. So I'm sure, you know, we've got this match, another two after it. At least one of them, we can hopefully see them take home a VR, which would put them in kind of that range of potentially being able to win. But they're still in qualifying range for the Global Championships, so you got to be happy about that at least.
There's so much pressure on Pink and Nebs, though, especially when they're witnessing their former teammate Chino holding down that first place position on the leaderboard. Meanwhile, they are just outside of that leaderboard range, 8th. And obviously, I'm with Levin. I love to see a little bit of, you know, turmoil between teams, because it just makes for a good storyline, and that's something that Pink and Nebs, they don't want to let Chino have the ultimate bragging rights.
They really don't. But hey, it's all about that friendly competition. That's an insane stat from Tayson, Atris, and Chicho. I mean, yesterday they had some rough matches. 25th, 31st, 23rd. But now that they've switched up their drop spot, you see top 3 in every game. That's no easy task.
Benno, Vico, and Flixie, though, they found their next targets. Moneymaker, faded, F9, struggling a little bit here. Another team potentially pointed into the mix, but Vico, Flixie from overhead, just steadily cornering Moneymaker's trio. Benno now holding down another angle. With Vico and Flixie pressuring the front side, Moneymaker might get a little bit isolated, and that's what Vico is waiting for. He's trying to get the advantageous position, but Flixie actually going to get turned and burned, faded, and benign.
Oh no.
While Moneymaker had them distracted, and what once looked like such a promising situation is now completely turned against them. Savage, Vidil, and Reason now going to enter the fray. Benno and Vico forced to just try and escape here, but Moneymaker faded for 9. What a bite back.
When you thought it couldn't get any worse, a whole other trio after your teammate goes down. I mean, I can see them getting out of this situation, especially as you can see now if Savage takes on the fight with them, but I don't know. They're just going to be in such shambles after this, even if they get out. Another duo, potentially full trio, also rolling in from the sideline. This is just going to be so tough to get out of. But I mean, we saw what Malabuka did in the last match as a solo. Even more shambles than Venno and Vico here. So it's definitely possible, but this is going to be incredibly tough.
Savage's team doesn't really want to allow for that to just play out and both teams to kind of disperse. Walks, Malabuka, Ping. They've created a whole world of trouble, though, for Seti and Cammy. Hari trying to see if he can get away, but it's no use. Chased down by Malabuka's trio. So where Venno is struggling, Malabuka certainly on the come up. Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstache, they could also be in a spot of trouble, but Foxy Floodgate kind of set and waiting, making sure that they're healthy before they move out of here. What I wanted to reference, though, is the fact that Vico and Venno, as a duo now, sure, it's possibly still a fight that they can take, but even if they get a knock onto somebody from Moneymaker's team, they're still going to have to deal with Savage, Odile, and Reason. That might even be what Reason's trio is waiting for. They're just waiting for this fight to pick up again before they jump in and cause even more chaos.
Hey, Savage finally pulled the zone, though. Let's see what they can do with it. Wouldn't be surprised if they get a big game here. It's what they're looking for. They need to push themselves back up the leaderboard. So as Veno and Vico hold on, Moneymaker, the 9, doing what they can to kind of continue with this fight. But yeah, either trio here, if you got the team up at Outlaw kind of looking back at you after this, it's gonna be tough.
Moneymaker's team's just crouching around. Veno hasn't been spotted just yet, but Moneymaker's gotta be careful. For 9 gonna be the first one, lose a bit of his shields. Vico and Veno though, they're gonna have to convert some of these shield attempts into full knocks and eliminations. They want to extend things much longer because they are below the surge threshold. That early hiccup at Lone Wolf Lair now coming back to haunt them, forcing them into such an awkward situation, an awkward fight here up against Moneymaker's team, and they are on the losing end of it. Veno will fall. It's only Vico left standing, and this leaderboard, that's going to put a big smile onto Malabuka's face if he's watching that elimination feed. And Vico, sure enough, can't withstand. Reason's team has re-entered the conversation and closed up what Moneymakers had started.
Yeah, you called it. They were just waiting for them to take that fight. Capitalized on the situation. Now our second place trio is out of the game. And the whole other top 5 are still up. I might have spoken too soon. Pablo Ferdoxy Chino in a fight. Looks like it was up against Thomas and his team. Are they just going for back and forths? Do they want to fully commit to this? They are kind of far away from the zone. So yeah, it looks like they need to. 190 below 215 now. Upwell goes down. Thomas and Panzer have to get in here.
But who is the superior Dane when it comes to the box fight? Ferdoxy managing to hold on. Thomas HD eliminated. Panzer follows with him. And Upwell cleaned up in the fight. Another big 3 eliminations, only furthering the elimination point lead. Gino, Pablo, Ferdoxy, they've had their work cut out for them here in day 2, but they are delivering in these lobbies.
That's a tough one. Being on the borderline of qualifying to the global championship. Thomas HD, Panzer, and Upwell literally 7th place now. Getting forced to fight, taken out of the game. To the #1 trio. Gotta give props to Ferdoxy, Chino, and Pablo, though. They have been doing an amazing job getting eliminations leading up to these end games. Not just looking for tags from afar, but actually being able to convert these fights into good amount of damage, full refreshes, and those extra elimination points. This is what they need to do if they want to hold on to first place.
Just wasn't any other options, though, for Thomas. They were going to fight whoever it was, whether it was Ferdoxy or anybody else. It's just what happens when you find yourself underneath Surge. Radius, Venya, Pixie, they're based. They're trying to cut off Chap's team. They recognize the fact Teeny so low. They heard the shields crack, but they want to stay ahead. They don't want to get caught in this swarm of players approaching on the backside of zone. Marius managed to get some decent tags along the way, but not going to lose sight of the fact that they want to make sure that they are maintaining a strong position, leading the way.
Let's see just how many players are rotating from this side of the zone. Malabuka walks in ping. They had a tough start, not having a huge opportunity to, you know, take their original route, get all the loot they're used to, but you can see from the 6 eliminations they've racked up, that insane refresh that they just picked up now as well. They are more back than ever, and based on the consistency from yesterday, I mean, when they were actually making it to those late games, they were getting top 3 almost every single game, so they need that big game today.
Also have to remember how dominant they looked in the low ground while doing so. Sure, their early game plan was all about surge basing and how accurate they could be with the assault rifles, but the way that they controlled frontside low so consistently throughout yesterday's lobbies is definitely impressive. Pink opened up for a peek and instead has to wait for the double revive. Thankfully, Yasin not close enough to be able to actually break through that wall, but it is going to force them to pause for a moment. Ferdoxy now with that mythic drum gun. He's trying to make something big happen here on the low ground. And with the way that his team's been playing all day, it's got to be a massive momentum swing after that last fight. And Savage just added to the tally. One more elimination, another one possibly here in Reason. And Vadil left just trying to figure out where to go next. Pablo, Gina, and Ferdoxy, they've got things completely figured out though. Just hold this control of the low ground.
8th zone is gonna pull towards the shore as well. You gotta think to yourself, can it even double pull towards the zone? Or towards the water, sorry. Is it worth it to kind of play on the land side here of the zone? Demus Darn picks though. See that as a perfect opportunity. Malabuka elevating themselves. Pink needs to have a good performance here. With Thomas HD having gotten eliminated, the one trio that's above them, they cannot afford to go down here. It's their shot to put themselves back in qualifying range for the global championship. As Malabuka's forced to drop down, gets cracked, but he makes it out alive. Just 32 above, though. They need to find damage.
Pink following suit, though, and Pink is incredibly low, just behind Wax, Malabuka, and Ping. He's not careful. Wax could be looking for the closing blow, but it won't come to fruition just yet. Malabuka, Ping, and Wax now gonna just try to run forward, stay out of eyesight. Vanya, Pixie, they've been spotted and focused by the lobby. Cruel as ever for Doxy, Chino, and Pablo on the other hand. Very nice position. Just looking back and spraying other teams on low ground. Trying to wait for a pre-edit opportunity possibly, and Wax, Malabuka, they've been so pressured since the start of this 8th zone here in Takata because they're just barely above the damage threshold, and the lobby isn't thinning out as quickly as it needs to be for them to stop being threatened by it, but it's gonna be a big opportunity onto Pixdarm and Demus. It's not gonna net anything just yet though.
Queasy, Swizzy Mustache up above. We said they needed that big match. Can they make it a reality here? Pixie Vanya left as a duo, one of the top contending teams to take home this whole tournament. They need to get at least a decent amount of points. They don't need to win this match. They just need to stay up as long as possible, at least use up all their materials, but a refresher is truly what they're looking for.
Oh, the bush wasn't enough to fully conceal. Vanya pays the price. Pixie forced to separate now, maybe hoping, optimistic for a drop from either Gian or Robin that he might be able to get a straight tag onto someone for a refresh, but as a solo in the low ground, it's always gonna get messy. Pablo, Gino, and Ferdoxy, though, they've started to elevate themselves just steadily higher. Still not in control of height, so that's gonna belong to Swizzy, Mustache, and Queasy. But if they can work their way through this mid-ground, they might be able to just take over and make something big happen.
Doing a great job. This is what we love to see from Ping, Wax, and Malabuka. The chemistry was at an all-time high yesterday. Can they continue that forwards? As Pablo is running into a bit of a panic here. He's lost for Doxy, left as a duo with Chino. They need to clutch out as many points as possible. Although Vanya's trio is incredibly low, they still have to put on a performance. Zangi could be that refresh that they need. The chase goes into zone. The shot is not able to connect. Pablo, he might have just trapped himself. He goes down on the hunt, leaving Chino alone.
There weren't many other options, though. He just needed to break through. But Chino, now as a solo, every placement counts. They're just trying to build as much of a lead as possible, but he knows there's so many teams kind of just swarming around his current location. And Chino down to his final build. He's just trying to play backside. He's just praying that somebody runs out in front of him who's incredibly low. And Zangi, he picks up where he last left off. Zangi will finally be eliminated here, but Chino, he has to just keep it pushing. He doesn't have a chance to really sit back and wait. Finally going to be able to utilize that water sprite, but coned up and just trying to stay hidden for as long as possible.
Did a great job elevating himself, though. It went up a ridge. Malabuka's left alone. He sees Janice. Doesn't fully take the fight yet. Just 4 builds remaining. As he runs lower and lower, he has to look back now, find these players that are staggered, but a player right into his box. He takes him out. His focus. That is a huge refresh. Now with the Siphon mats, he can get a little further, but with the full trios looking back, it's just making it that much more difficult.
But we're we're looking at some of our leading teams in absolute shambles on the low ground. All the while, Queasy, Swizzy, Mustache, they are causing absolute mayhem, just spraying from above. Malabuka gonna fall at a similar time, and Queasy, Mustache, Swizzy, this could be the game that they've been chasing all day long here, looking down, seeing the chaos unfolding underneath them, not even having to apply the damage just yet because Pix and Demus, they're clearing out the low ground for them. They're doing so much of the heavy lifting, but Swizzy, the moment that he drops, he's trying to get some of those final blows alongside Mustache. Mustache just threading the needle, finding tags here and there, needs to get another one. Volko eliminated here for Mustache. 6, make that 8 in total for this trio. Demus still scrambling, but Mustache, too much damage. He's gonna be forced to pause. It's up to Queasy, but Cringe from behind. Cringe could cause a serious issue, and Mustache loses track of what's in front of him. But Queasy, up above, he's made sure to maintain height. Down to his final 2 builds, he'll be forced to drop and join the rest of the lobby.
No.
Darm's gonna fall. Queasy could do it. He needs to just get this final shot, but the Siphon won't save him. Pixarm and Demus hold on just long enough to get the Victory Royale and steal it away from Queasy.
So close. So incredibly close. Queasy has been playing so well, to be honest, throughout the day. They've been getting to those top 10s, but they haven't got a match big enough to put themselves in contesting range of that first place spot, and he almost gets the 1v3. But congratulations to Pix, Darm, and Demus. Not only were they able to revive their teammate in those last moments of the end game, they've gotten 4th twice today, they've gotten 3rd place, and now they've secured that Victory Royale. They were not in qualifying range to the global championship going into this match, but now I can almost guarantee that they put themselves in a spot to do so. Frankie, that was insane.
That was absolutely insane. Pixstar and Demus, listen, we love having them in a major final. I've been slightly disappointed to not see them on form so far, but now they come and make a moment we won't forget. Queasy in that 1v3 tried his hardest. It was so close, but you've got to give it to the Polish boys, Mini Miner. They delivered.
Yeah, really nice day too for these guys so far. I mean, you know, going into this FNCS, so much expectation on their shoulders. People were talking about top 3s, people were talking about wins, but they're clawing back into it after a really rough start, and that's what a great team will do. Now they're going to be higher up in the standings. Of course, now their scope's going to be more focused on that global championship spot, but this is a team that we haven't really seen too much of over the weekend 11, but for today, they've been doing really good.
Yeah, look, they've been sort of petering around that line of the top 10, right? And so like the casters rightfully mentioned, that game catapults you into a position to now compete for a global spot, which I think many people expected them to be doing for more of this weekend. And it's better late than never, I guess. Those final moments, though, very eerie. They did so well to get that revive off, right? Because had they not, they probably do just lose this game. Queasy, you know, he was turning into an absolute animal towards the end of that flick that he hit on Dom was just mental. Like, I was not expecting that off of Queasy, but Pix does well there. He has the edit, the composure, gets the job done. Finally, good to see this team making more of an impact in this lobby for sure.
It was absolutely crazy to watch. I nearly fell over my green screen. My background nearly looked very different. I could have broken the setup. I think Levin was the same, and Mini Miner, he was cool as a cucumber, as always. We're going to head to the break. When we come back, we've just got 2 more games remaining. I can't believe it. Just 2 games remain in the FNCS Europe Major 2 finals, and we know they're going to be absolute bangers, so stay tuned as we discuss what happened in Game 10. We've got to look at the leaderboard, boys. Things keep chopping and changing, but Fredoxy's trio, I imagine, are still at the top, and there you go. It's crazy to imagine how great a performance we're seeing from these guys. I have to keep reminding everyone, these guys qualified through the last chance qualifiers, and now they're terrifying everyone in the lobby 11. It's crazy.
This fight here was crazy. I talked about how it doesn't feel like anybody can really stop these guys from getting to endgame. Thomas HD's team tried and failed because these guys just would not give up on this game. Even towards the end here, right, we see Fredoxy and Pablo go down, and it was all up to Chino to try clutch it up. He was in 12th place at that point. He clutches a top 5 mini. These guys want the FNCS win, and they want it bad. They are playing out of their minds right now.
So good. I mean, so confident as well. Every single time these guys get into a fight, it's almost like when vivo and Flixie get into a fight, you're like, yeah, they're going to win this. Yeah, they'll roll through this team. And they do, more often than not. And it's just working out so well for them. You mentioned it, the Chino clutch, absolutely fantastic. And that's what you need from your fraggers in the trio. You need them to be making those plays and keeping yourselves afloat at the top of the leaderboard. It's now just about whether they will stay uncontested. That's got to be the question.
I wonder if Vico, Vanny, and Flixie are going to come their way. But I mean, the fact that those 2 trios that are currently heading to Lone Wolf Lair are constantly contesting each other and kind of getting 1-1 apiece each time that we see them, or every other game, I should say, that we see them. It will be interesting to see if Venno decides to change track. We've got to talk about Marius, Pixie, and Vanya, though, because this is a trio that really need to kind of, I guess, try and maintain their consistency in their endgame to try and maintain as high a placement as possible. They lasted until the 13th the 13th spot, I should say, 11. Sorry, the pressure is getting to me. I don't know about these guys. Do you think that they can have another great game? Is it in them?
I mean, yeah, for sure. This wasn't their greatest game, though, right? As you know, we've seen them have plenty of better games. They've won so many games this weekend, but this one wasn't their strongest, and it's tough that it wasn't their strongest because their biggest competitors now sort of came out and really had a great game in Chino's trio. This is the team that we sort of have to look at. If you're not supporting, you know, Chino's trio to go and win the whole thing, right? Like, you're looking at Vanya, Pixie, and Marius as the ones, because yes, Malibuca's trio is above them, and yes, Vico's trio is right behind, but we know those 2 teams are fighting against each other. really and truly, when you're looking at the two teams who, like, have a more clear path to competing against Chino's trio, it's going to be Vanya, it's going to be Swizzy, Queasy, and Mustache. But they're both, near about 100 points away, right? Slightly less for Vanya's trio mini. So with 2 games left, it's not impossible to close that gap, but it's starting to look like another good game for Chino, and they might just wrap this thing up.
Yeah,
it's also looking like many minors. Sorry to interrupt, but I just want to discuss Malabuka with you quickly. I just mentioned it's kind of back and forth between him and Veno's trio on the leaderboard right now, and currently Malabuka's looking like he's finding that consistency from yesterday potentially as we head into these last 2 games.
Yeah, much different complexion to this off spawn as well. We saw a little bit more of a stalemate. We saw both teams sort of disengage, or at least Vico and Flixie disengage, leaving the drop spot for Wox, Malabuka, and Ping. And that's kind of playing into their favor. I think they're not going to want those sort of quick fights off spawn. It's not going to work out for them. And they have the capability in endgame. We saw it throughout the entire day yesterday, 11. So there's no reason why they can't do it when they get to the endgame. Ultimately, though, we've spoken about it all day. It's just making that off spawn work, making it count, and then making it to endgame as a trio.
I want to ask a quick question, Levin. If Veno's trio were not contesting Mali's trio at Lone Wolf Lair, would Malabuka still be in the #1 spot?
Oh, I think you'd have to say so, right? With just how well they played yesterday and how they've still been able to get something out of these games where there's been a stalemate or, things haven't quite gone their way. And it's still close, right? With everything that they've gone through today, it's still close at the top of the leaderboard there, Mini.
Yeah, I mean, they had a 32nd and a 30th today and a 15th, and they're still not that far away from first place. So, if it wasn't for the consistency of Paradoxy's team, we'd be saying this is a team that definitely can pull back that lead. But, can they do it? Will they switch drop spots? Will they keep going there? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, we don't have to wait much longer because it's time for game number 11.
We are right here on the cusp of determining who's actually going to be the team wielding that Blade of Champions Takata. And with game 11 on the horizon, so many of these teams that are just trying to last minute scramble their way up that leaderboard.
Yeah, we're getting closer and closer. There's a few things to keep your eyes on, right? It's who's going to end up getting first and who's in that currently top 7, which will qualify you to the Global Championships. Now, I'm also thinking, okay, Vico, Veno, Flixie, they've been landing on Malabuka all day. First place is now for Doxy by a bit. Will they change it up? Well, let's see, because game 11 is ready to go.
And Veno's trio has been put in a pretty difficult position because if they want to challenge Mask Meadows and try to shut down what's been going so well for Doxy's team, they leave open Lone Wolf Lair for Malabuka's team to then prosper off of. So for them, they're likely just going to commit to that off-spawn contest, but they know without a shadow of a doubt in their mind now, if they don't confirm those early elims when they do go for that 50-50 contest, it's typically been more so in Malabuka's team's favor.
I mean, that's the main issue. If you end up switching it up now, it's just not where you want to be, but it looks like they're going for an all-out pickaxe battle. Vico is going to be the loser in this case. Veno, Flixie now left to play it out as a duo. Could this be the first match that Malabuka and his trio clean this one up quickly?
Veno and Flixie immediately fall back, though, to try and provide a little bit of cover support, but Ping doing what he can to prevent this double revive. Still, it won't be enough. And Vico actually did get some of the goods before he was pickaxed down. Veno, Flixie, Vico. Now a steady trio, but both sides wanting to at least get a little bit of shield going. And Flixie, it's the fact that they had to forfeit the high ground, though, inside of the mansion. Walk's gonna drop to Flixie's level, but won't be able to find a knock. Veno kind of lurking on Walks, creeping up the stairs, opens with the shot. The infiltrator doesn't bring him knock damage he needs. Walks just hidden inside the bathroom. Will be forced to use Memis grenade, take advantage of the slip barrel, but this is still very awkward approach here for Ping. Doesn't want to get double teamed, so he's opting to just fall back.
Interesting start. To be fair, I mean, it looks quite even now once again, but they saw what happened when the match took a while to kind of, well, I guess the battle took a while to conclude. both trios were able to make it close to the end game. Malabuka's trio actually getting 4th, so they could just try and play it out slow once again. But the difference here, Taco, as you just saw, is that it looks like Veno, Vico, and Flixie might be the ones, will be the ones to actually get the vault this time around.
Vault control is just going to be a nice swing of resources for Flixie, Veno, and Vico, but Malabuka and them might decide to just hold them inside of the vault. No, they have other intentions. They're just going to leave. They don't want a part of Lone Wolf any longer. They're going to give up their POI and try to find success elsewhere. And we've seen them do it in the 2 lobbies that they have made it from the off-spawn. So can never really count them out. Chicho, Atris, Tayson probably regretting taking that launch pad just now. They were trying to bail out of Kappa, but now they're just going to be chased down. Chicho doesn't even have any materials really, so these teams just focusing him.
They started off so strong too. They got 4th place in all 3 of the first matches. Not 4th place, but top 4 at least. And their first match where they didn't get a top 4 was this most recent match. And now if they fall once again, that whole comeback that they started doing might fall. But Ivan, how do you not win those? Chicho is now left in a 1v2. He's got the chug. He's got a bit of mats. Is it a possibility though, Taco? Can he make a dream come true?
If you're gonna step to some of the best, you best step correct. And Chicho, that put down onto Ivan. Now seeing if he can have similar luck up against Cade, but 2 versus 1. Surely this goes the way of Cade and Aryan. Still, Chicho not making it easy. Working his way around these builds. He's got both of them in his sights, but doesn't find the immediate knock. Maybe if he'd gotten one of the 2 from that last shot, there might have been a glimmer of hope, but instead, that's going to be a shutdown for Tayson, Chicho, and Atris. They're going to have to wait out for that Gain 12 battle bus to try and build their position on that leaderboard.
I had faith, to be honest. I had faith. After that first dealing, I was like, okay, I see you. As we go back over to Chino, Pablo, and Ferdoxy, luckily enough, they are uncontested once again, so en route to continue with their lead for first place. Savage, Vidil, and Reason, they were able to pick up a bit of eliminations in the last match, but ended up getting elimed before that late game. So if they get snuck up on this time around, it's going to be tough. Savage is completely alone here.
Oh,
if
he
Pablo
has no
gets a
idea.
beam, yeah, this is going to be a tough one. I hope you make the right decision on where to walk to next here, Savage.
Oh,
Playing safe,
Mr.
though.
Savage. Please. You don't want it. Not like
no.
this,
Not
right?
this
Not
way.
like this. This is not the way that we want to see Savage leave this lobby and still seemingly unaware of the dangers that are directly next to him. Chino, Pablo, creeping. Slight sprint, then back to creeping up onto Savage's current position. You can feel the 3-2-1 building. Savage, he just wanted the mats. Loses a good chunk of his shield instead. Trying to scurry on out of here, but Chino with the cutoff. That Sub-Zero kit doing him a huge favor. Now jumping immediately on top of Savage's head, and Chino, he's just trying to make sure that he can confirm. And sure enough, Savage will fall. Reason and Vidil are now going to be forced to disengage entirely. Have to play through the reboot too. It's tough scenes.
For Pablo, Ferdoxy, and Chino, they've done a great job finding these eliminations early. I mean, they're not opting to just kind of go for that surge-based strategy. They have been playing aggressive and looking for those full-on eliminations. Now they've picked off one. They can, choose. Do they want to hunt the duo, or do they just want to continue with their loot path? Also depends on how these zones pull, but Reason, as you can see, is making a bit of a statement here. And hey, come on up if you want, but I'll be ready.
But he has to spend so much time waiting, and they will get the reboot off almost immediately. But Savage has to start all over. He had just invested a decent amount of the early game towards looting up that armored van, trying to get some materials from Southern Pines area, and right back to square one from that jump scare that Pablo, Chino, and Ferdoxy decided to produce.
Yeah, it's tough. That's honestly tough. Ended up being kind of like a loot llama there in the end. Have to do it all over again. But hey, at least, you know, they're back in the game and they can... Could be a lot worse, right? We've seen worse matches been, you know, come back from, especially what we saw from Malabuka and Vico's battles, still being able to make it. So Vanya, Marius, and Pixie have been uncontested throughout this whole weekend, which has benefited them heavily. Also, you know, their north zones might have helped a little bit, but they're still not in that first place. Not only do they want the qualifying spot, but being in third right now, they want to see what they can do to hold that and potentially even, you know, surpass the Malabuka there for Doxy. But they will need a big game if they want to get first. With the amount of points that now for Doxy Pablo Chino are leading by, it's going to be a lot more difficult to catch up to them.
Take a look at what's building in Magic Mosses, though. Veno's team likely just trying to get control of this black market. It's located nearby. They'll have to deal with Sangyield first, though. It's threatening. A little bit further north of where Veno's team is boxed. And they're not the only ones either. Plenty of traffic surrounding Magic Mosses right now. Vico trying to keep a lookout as best as possible. But if they spend too much time here, they might get caught in congestion that they were not bargaining for. But they love a good fight. They're definitely a scrappy team. And they're a team that knows how to close those fights too.
And over once again at the Pablo Chino for Doxy versus Savage Vidil and Reason. They're getting up close and personal once again, trying to get the back-to-back, the 2 times. Sneaky play. Be difficult to be successful again. I mean, hopefully Vidil, Reason, and Savage are kind of looking out for that.
They've definitely got their surge bases on top of the mountain span, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be completely safe, especially if they have no idea that Pablo, Chino, for Doxy are just crouch walking all around this tunnel area. Certainly being cautious, though. They really just want to steal the van and go. That seems to be their primary intention. And now, with it being on the move, it does appear like Reason, Savage, and Vidil, they don't want to let their ride go, but they don't have a choice. They're just going to have to watch them bail out.
Got robbed. It's all good, though. At least they're still up. Thomas, Panzer, and Uppel have been having a bit of trouble throughout the day. They've been managing to stay just on the cutoff, but I don't think they've even made top 10 once today. Although Walks now is going to pick up an elimination here onto Shark.
It's actually crazy how easy he made that look. Against Shark of all people, it just goes to show, no, Riley, Trueleg, Shark, they were not anticipating to have company this early on here at Foxy Floodgate. Ping and Walks still lurking, though. It's going to be a tough duo operation, but the 2 versus 2. It's a little bit more evenly cut. Mustache, Swizzy, Queasy, just trying to take advantage of where Thomas's team is currently at, fighting inside of the storm now. They need to get even more points if they want to continue being a threat towards that top side of the leaderboard. And Panzer, good chunk of his HP gone now. I'll have to hope that Uppel and Thomas can buy him even more time. But Thomas is just slow and steady. Might have an opening onto Swizzy, but just short. Turns it around, though, and Swizzy will be knocked. Thomas wasting absolutely no time now. Mustache heavily threatened. They've got the numbers advantage. They go from being hunted to hunters, and this is an ideal situation, working their way through Kappa Kappa, because they can continue playing tag with Queasy's team. When they go for the reboot, they'll know we've got this trio right behind us. We'll just trail them and continue applying damage to them every step along the way.
I was going to say, not again. Not again. Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer going down early. 23rd in the last match. Like I said, they haven't got top 10 once today, but because they performed so well in day one. They
Wow.
were able to kind of stay in that qualifying range for the global championship. But they do need a good match here. They're now in 8th, so they are not in that range no more. But, you know, there's the start of exactly what they need. They just cannot throw it away.
They're also going to have to find some whites somewhere along the way. Thomas HG only has 90 left inside of this current Chug Jug. And it seems like they're still scoping out the vicinity, trying to figure out where Queasy's actually gone off to. Thomas, if he's not careful, though, he could be picked off. But Queasy seems a lot more preoccupied with just trying to stay alive. He's not really interested in taking this immediate fight. Thomas wants a faster means of rotation, though. And Queasy, unfortunately, can't. Oh, he might have just found Niels right at the last second.
Good for now, but yeah, it's going to be tough to come back from. Noah Trulex trying to see if they can catch Walks and Ping here. Just kind of snuck in the corner, but Noah's going to go down from the 2v2 to now Walks and Ping with 3 elims on the board. This is a amazing way to put themselves in the game. They need this match, Taco, and with odds not in their favor, this is a good way to set themselves up.
It'll just be the 2 of them, so it's going to be a rocky road. We've seen them manifest it from similar positions before, even in the last major. For Doxy, Pablo, and Chino, though, they are elevated at Shiny Shafts, just exchanging blows with some teams that are also based up in their Surge Mountains across the way. It looks to be Sky and Marius' teams, all in their separate Surge bases. But things are relatively quiet right now at Shiny Shafts.
All the top 5 trios are still up and running. It's going to make it that much more difficult for the teams trying to push themselves in that cutoff for the top 7. Currently at 446 points going into this match, but with Tace and Chicho and Atris being eliminated, you know, it opens up a chance for the other teams a little below them.
And another one for Pablo Wingu. Hey, you gotta make sure that you're staying up to date with some of your bloom fights here. Okay,
Yeah.
Cringe and Kiruo, though, they probably keeping tabs on what Pablo is up to. Pigstorm and Demus, though, big surge up leaderboard after that Victor Royale in the last match, Takata. And they are certainly trying to confirm their global championship seat. This is easily going to be one of their best opportunities. They're so close they can taste it.
They really can. I'm excited to see how this one plays out. If you're not familiar with Pix, Darm, and Demus, they played in the first major finals last season, somehow qualifying. And not only that, they got 5th place from being the underdogs to now top tier competitors on EU, going into today and even, you know, these major finals once again. A lot of people kind of have them on their radar and they're in that qualifying range. So seeing them in the global championship would be amazing.
Still a bit ridiculous, though, to think. We're checking back in with Marius' team, and they've got 3 victory royales in total across this weekend, Takata, and yet they are still in that 3rd place position on the leaderboard heading into this 11th lobby, and you just know that they want the extra 2 spots up ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they were 1 spot off qualifying in Major 1, literally 3rd place when the top 2 qualified. They had a 12% win rate in the Div Cup finals. They know how to win matches. They can win those matches, but they've been lacking in, you know, the constant top 10s, the constant top 5s. But those wins have been helping them, you know, keep themselves and planting themselves in qualifying range to the global championship. But, you know, they want more than that. They want to be able to get that 1st place alongside it, that Blade of Champions. So hopefully with a big game here, it can kind of push themselves up.
But of course, they're not going to be the only ones trying to get a really big performance in these last couple of lobbies. Vico, Veno, Flixie just rolling around the outskirts of Outlaw Oasis. It's gonna be tough for other teams to really stop their current flow, but Veno, he just wants prime positioning. Even if it comes at a slight cost, a little bit of damage, but they're rolling through.
You know, this game, they need to put themselves in second because we know what Vico, Veno, and Flixie truly want. They want to win this major like the rest of them. And to do that, going into this, you know, second to last game that we're witnessing right now, they need to put themselves in at least second place so they have a good chance of taking first in that last match. If they put themselves into second here, I would not be surprised if they land on Pablo, Ferdoxy, and Chino in the last match. But to do so, they need to get a good amount of points here. Now, they are above. They've gotten an elimination, but that's just the start. Mustache, on the other hand, Grippe gets knocked down. But so does Mustache, Swizzy as well, and it's all up to Queasy. A huge game leading into this match. Put them in 5th place, but now potentially gonna go down early.
And Queasy is just chasing Clubshy. He wants this so badly. Anything to continue their run inside of that top 5 of the leaderboard. But Queasy, he's running out of time. He's running out of HP. The Storm's gonna finish off what Glubshy didn't even need to do. And Glubshy will be the only survivor from that exchange. Trouble's definitely starting to pick up here, though, for Pablo, Ferdoxy, and Chino. They don't necessarily have the HP that they'd probably want to right now, but more than enough resources, more than enough heals. They'll be able to build back up, no problem. It's largely just dealing with some of the congestion piling around them, but they'll get some great shots in onto Faded. They can tell that box fight's getting scrappy. They don't have to get up close and personal just yet, though. They'll opt for the free rotate while those teams are preoccupied. Darm, Demas, luckily avoiding the view of Pablo, Ferdoxy, and Chino. They might have actually chosen to collapse, but this team is just full-on dead set on getting into the next zone.
Yeah, you got to be careful when the 7th zone pulls to the uncongested side, and you know a majority of the lobby is going to be rotating. You do not want to be the last trios to get in. So great job, you know, seeing that and being able to base up quickly. Now they do have that, you know, chance to look back and shoot the trios rotating on in a bit late. Cammy close to them, no shield to his name.
Oh, this is tough for Seti, Cammy, and Hari, though. They're just smushed between Moneymaker's team and Ferdoxy's, and they don't look like they're in a position to fight either of them, but we'll have to revisit exactly what's going down over there. Kiruo, Volko, Cringe, they've managed to find a somewhat isolated spot on the side of this hill face, a little bit closer towards the dead side. Panzer, Thomas, Uppel, eating a few tags, returning a few tags. Vico, Flixie, Veno, just trying to make sure that they're in a position to take over high ground, and Navahollow nearly going down, but will manage to just stay standing, even if just barely. Veno, all the while, still pressuring onto Noms. Twy might not have shield, but it's a 2 versus 1 that Veno doesn't want to tango with just yet. Height was all Veno was after in the first place, and forcing Navahollow's team downwards means that they have open reign towards it.
Come on, pull zone, pull zone. They pull it. Okay, this is massive for Vico, Veno, and Flixie. They played for the odds. They pulled 8th zone here, but they're below. Please don't let being 28 below lead to your demise when you're so close to closing this out and pushing yourself up that leaderboard. All they have to do are connect a few shots. The issues from the early game led them to not have the best spare shields. They really need to do a bit of damage here. The odds have been in their favor for this match, but if they keep on ticking, it's going to be difficult. You can see Walks not in a great position at all.
This is a terrible spot for Walks in comparison to what we're witnessing from Veno's team. And sure, Veno's team just barely above that damage threshold, but they still have all 3 players. Walks has a solo down to his last small shield potion. Feels like it's only a matter of seconds before somebody takes notice of his current position, and sure enough, Walks will fall. But Veno, Flixie, Vico, they can't afford to let up. They're now holding separate angles on height. They're trying to apply whatever damage they can, and just like that, they jump well above what they need for the damage threshold. They can't get comfortable, though. They know that there's still teams underneath them. Could potentially be looking to chop them out. And they want to hold the high ground for as long as possible.
Demus picks Storm, doing a great job just trying to get a bit of damage in on the players rotating through. Savage, incredibly low, has to be careful as he gets dropped as well. Shot away from getting knocked. As we take a look at how they've been causing disruption here throughout this late game. Tidy getting knocked down. Quick points for them. Where will this first moving pull towards? Is it going to pull towards Kami Sedihara? Is it going to pull towards Vico, Veno, Flixi? And yes, it will. The double pull from this trio. They claimed it, kind of scared Kami away, and now got the zone pullback. So can they hold on? I mean, Queasy's not in the lobby. Vanya is, though, and we know they like going for wins.
Poor Fernando. Sometimes you just see these solos in the low ground, and you just gotta feel for them because it's like impossible to know which way to actually run. Everybody just trying to look for pickoffs as they make their rotates. But Veno, Vico, Flixi, they've definitely got the zone RNG on their side. And for Doxy, Pablo, Chino, they've got to hold down this secondary height position instead. They can't look for a height challenge. Not even sold that they would even want to go that way, though. Their build's a little bit low. A refresh certainly needs to be found. And sooner rather than later here is Pablo, Chino for Doxy, managing to go unnoticed. That is until Chino gets knocked in the process, though. Vico saw him in the final moments, but they have been chopped. Vico, though, won't lose any HP to fall damage. They were prepared for that. And Pablo for Doxy, they've got to put on a crazy performance here if they want to hold that spot on the leaderboard.
Oh, Vico jumps into a full trio. The 1v3, they were out of materials. He knew he had to make a massive play to come back here, but Flixi is going to be able to pick up one. It's going to be enough mats to push them to zone, but are they still holding on? Yes, there's not a single trio contesting them now. They're able to build on in. The zone pulled far, but they did what they had to continue above.
They're full tarping out. Pixie, Marius, Vanya, they'll be able to get a revive off, so they're still going to be a trio intact for the time being. But Pablo for Doxy, they're just hoping that they can get a refresh. They're trying to make sure that they don't fall to Poland. Demon's Darm, but they get caught off instead by Frenek's team. And now it's for Doxy, coned up, isolated, hoping that Demon's Darm and Pix don't realize where he's at. He wants to see if he can get a siphon tag in, but it's not going to be the case. Runs in straight into the hands of Avahalo, who was just hiding in the backside.
Pixie, Marius, Vanya, we talked about it. We know that they like playing for that victory royale. They have now overtaken the high ground. This is what they need with Doxy. Left alone, Veno going down as well. The whole trio being eliminated. Now's the chance for Marius, Pixie, and Vanya to push themselves closer to that first place spot on the leaderboard. All they need to do is close out this match.
They're just smothering these lower layers with as much suppressive fire as possible. Pixie, gotta be careful, but Tripburn has been knocked. Vanya credited with that one, just waiting for the siphon to tick over. Finds another elimination even, and they just have full control of height. So much material, so much to invest. The world is their oyster here in Game 11, Takata, and they are just continuing to apply that steady pressure. Marius, Vanya, Pixie, if they find that fourth victory royale, and it starts with the elimination onto Gires, the knock gonna be the opening. Pixie with a massive shot though onto Dinas, and now Seti just trying to avoid the rampage that Pixie seems to be setting himself on.
They had a tough game 10, but as Marius goes down, the pressure is increasing. Vanya, Pixie now left alone as a duo to try and clean this one up. There's 6 total players. Looks like Kami's still on low. Shot gets connected from Pixie onto Frenek. Gets the elimination alongside it. Seti, Kami now, a duo down below. It's a full trio.
Kami, Hardy, they're all so strong when they play together. But Pixie and Vanya, they're still a big part of this conversation. They still have a couple of mats to play with here. And Pixie waiting for that perfect shot. He's got to be as precise as ever, though. He can't let this one slip. But Seti, Kami, Artie, they're not looking to lose another one. They want their victory royale. Vanya gonna manage to jump ahead. Seti trying to run back. Seti don't get away, though. And Vanya right as we thought that Cammy, Seti, and Hari might have a chance to close this one out, it is shut down. That dream just slipping away from them.
Vanya said, no heal off for you. Get back to the lobby. Knocks him, secures the victory royale. This is perfect. As the first place trio went down, the second place trio went down, and Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, with an open road ahead of them, were able to pick up the victory royale to now push themselves closer and closer to that Blade of Champions.
Absolute tragedy, though, for the Polish here. But Vanya, Pixie, Marius, what a come up in this game 11. Frankie, Levin, Mini, tell me what just happened.
I will forever associate multiple victory royales with Vanya in major finals. This one is no different, Levin. Poor Cammy and Seti just having another one stolen from under their very noses. But let's not dwell on that, Levin. Let's not dwell on that. Let's just big up the fact that Marius, Pixie, and Vanya are almost certainly going to global championships now, and they're proving why they are one of Europe's brightest hopes.
Yeah, one spot away last major. This major looks like they've got that job done, but the job is not finished for this team, because I think this is it. This is the contender. This is the team that really stands in the way of Pablo, Fredoxy, and Chino. If there's anybody that's going to beat them and stop them here in Game 12, it's most likely going to have to be these guys now, Mini.
Yeah, and the way they played this endgame was really nice as well. They had to pick up the revive onto Vanya, which, of course, this refresh gave them the green light to take height there in the end as well. They were just playing height just underneath Vico and Veno's trio there up on top, and they just took it really, really straightforwardly. And from here on out, it only looked like it was going one way right up until the end, when of course, we had Seti, Cammy, and Hari right on the low ground. And to be honest, with the way that Seti, Cammy, and Hari have been playing these endgames and these final two trio situations, I was kind of confident in Vanya, but the way he did it was unreal there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, the clutch shots onto Seti as he ran away.
Yeah.
I mean, Seti's going to regret building up on that ramp and running. Like, he's going to be wishing he would have hidden maybe a bit more. Losing another 2v3 situation is just crazy. But look, focus on Vanya, right? Because Vanya and Pixie, you know, remember in the group stage when we were talking about these guys, I highlighted the fact that last major, when it came to final two situations, they stunk, right? Like, they had like 10 final two situations, I think, in set lobbies, and won only like one of them. This season, they've been much better when it comes to converting in those scenarios, and that's a perfect display of that. Very impressed by this trio right now.
Listen, boys, we need to talk some more. We just have one more game before we crown our FNCS Europe Major 2 champions. We're going to be taking a look at the leaderboard after the break.
If you miss, you gon' regret it.